Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. We are finally starting spring. I just can't wait. I feel like we need spring now more than ever. This is another episode of Craft TV. If you don't know what that is, it's a playlist that I have made where I share lots of crafty DIY decor ideas, and this one is spring. The previous one I made was fall. I hope that you enjoy all of these ideas. Let's get started. So for the first DIY, you're going to grab yourself an embroidery hoop. My one is 6 inches. And I've also got some lace, so you're going to need a bit of that. I can link this piece of lace for you. I got it from eBay. And now I'm going to set my embroidery hoop up. So I'm trying to make use of the fabric. I'm going to get it as close to the edge as possible. Then you're going to take the inner part here, slip it under it, and you're going to just push it into place like this. And then tighten this, and then you're just simply going to cut around it. Now we're going to be dressing this up, and to do that you can use real flowers if you like, dried out flowers, or you can use your artificial ones. I'm going to use artificial, and here I've just cut off some leaves, and I've also cut off a few flower heads here. Just got bits and bobs, so we're going to arrange them and stick them down using our hot glue. Now for the final bit of detail, I wanted to take this off. This is like a hairband, and this little dangly bit is like for decoration, but I want to get it off with my pliers and then stick it or somehow hang it so that it's just hanging at the bottom of this embroidery hoop or wreath. So what I'm going to do is hoop this little bit through one of these holes in the net and then close it up using my pliers. And this is the first project finished. I really like it. It's so delicate and so refreshing to look at as well. Does anyone else see a unicorn on this though? I don't know, the leaves sort of look like the ears. Yeah, it just looked like a unicorn to me. I did make some adjustments to this. I got rid of a few pieces at the top and I changed a few flowers, and also the little dangly bit I just glued on the base rather than hanging it on the lace. Okay, for the next DIY, this is going to be really quick, easy and simple, but it really does look effective. I've got this cloche from Hobbycraft. It's really small, and I'm going to be using real flowers for this one. They're all dried. And I will actually leave a link for the flowers that I have purchased because they're super cheap and it's really handy. This is how they come. The box did come battered or actually broken like this, but everything was fine inside. And there's like a huge selection of dried flowers. You've also got some dried plants. I just think they're really beautiful. So I also have this pearl garland here. I'm going to stick this around the edge just to decorate it a little. So we'll cut it to size and hot glue it. I'll start off by adding a little to one of the pearls. Just stick it in the centre. Then you're going to wrap it around. Apply a little bit of glue just in the middle. and another one here. Going to cut its size and then stick the last one down. There you go. And then the rest is just really quick. Take your arrangement and then we're going to cut its size. So all you're simply doing is taking your dried flowers, placing them inside. You don't have to glue them or anything. I think I'm happy with this arrangement. And then you're going to take the bottom, place it on top. And here's the second project, really quick and easy, so simple, but honestly, this might be my favourite, or at least one of them. It just looks so high-end. Now, for the third and final DIY, you're going to take this mirror. It was from Poundland. I'm going to remove all of the packaging. You're going to open the back and you're going to remove the mirror. Keep all of this because we're going to need it. So you actually have to get rid of the screws to get the mirror out. So I'm going to take 2 out and hopefully it will come out. There we go. Then you're going to take the backing, and this is a fat quarter piece that I also got from Poundland. So essentially all we're going to do is stick the material to this backing, cut its size and glue it down. Okay, once you're done with that, you're going to slot it back into the frame. I'm just going to put those 2 back on with their screws. Okay, so I've got my watercolour set out here. I'm going to paint the frame because I just felt like it looked really cheap. I really don't like that, so I am mixing in 2 colours to try to create like a bit of an ivory colour, I guess. I've got white and I've got a cream colour here. I'm probably also going to do something with the butterflies because they kind of look a bit tacky just as they are. Excuse my hands. One of the paints had dried out, so I forcefully squeezed it, which was a big mistake, and it just went everywhere basically. It's all over my table as well, but hopefully I can get it cleaned up. So here is the cream colour. And I'm actually not mixing this with water. Lately I've been using my watercolour paints sort of like stains really, just to create a bit of colour to a few things that I've been working on. And what I like is that it really applies to every surface as well that I've tried. Ceramic, plastic, wood. Okay, so I've just painted the whole frame and the butterflies in those combination of colours, the cream and the white. I'm just going to go over it now with some white eyeshadow. So I'm just going to add a little shimmer to it. Just to the butterflies and their wings here. Okay, now that I'm finally happy with the frame, I'm just going to set that aside. I've got this necklace here. It's a pendant and I've never worn it or used it for anything, and I thought I really need to put it to some use. So I'm going to put it onto the frame. So this is the backing. Let me get it the right way around. What you're going to do is place the pendant where you like, so I've got it in the centre there, that's where I'm happy with it. And I'm going to dangle the chains on either side, so here and here. Then you're going to simply take your frame, place it on top, then you're just going to secure that at the back, turn these back. And here's the third and final project for today. I'm so pleased with how it came out. I think it just looks so pretty and dainty, and I think it makes a good handmade gift as well as decor. And just look at that frame, it looks so much better now. So as you saw today from the thumbnail, I have 3 butterfly DIYs for you to enjoy. For the first project, you're going to need these tumble tower wooden blocks, and we're going to stick them together using hot glue. You can use a combination of E6000 and hot glue if you want them to be extra strong. Then you want to head onto your search engine and type in something like vintage backgrounds or shabby chic vintage backgrounds and print that out. So I've just got an inkjet printer and this is just paper. So we're basically going to cut this and stick it down using some Mod Podge just to cover these blocks. So this is how it looks now. Pretty cute, right? Then we can go over it again with some Mod Podge, and it's up to you if you'd like to use matte or gloss. I'm going to use matte. The next thing you want is some wire. I've got some thin wire here. I do have thicker ones, but I kind of felt like thinner ones might work better with this project. And I'm going to take my pliers and cut several of these at various lengths. Then you're going to straighten your wires out, and we're going to hot glue them on our block and just arrange them how you like. Okay, so once you have your structure looking something like this, you're going to do the last step, which is taking your butterflies. Now I have this I purchased from the works, but you can just print your own butterflies off the internet onto some card. So I'm going to pop these out, and then all we're simply going to do is stick them on to the top of the wires. I do recommend, like I'm trying to go for a vintage style, so I'm sticking with vintage butterflies, and I also recommend going for different sizes and different butterflies all together, so you've got a nice variation going. So decide where you'd like each butterfly, and then apply a small amount of hot glue in the centre, and then just stick that on to your wire. And that's it. I love how they wobble. Isn't that just so fun? I also recommend sticking them at an angle and changing it up just to keep it looking interesting. The second DIY is going to be like a thrift flip. So I found this in the thrift store and I'm going to give it a makeover. I'm going to start by opening all of this up, and we're going to remove the backing. Then I'm going to remove these, and I'm also going to remove this, and then what I'm going to do is cut a white strip of card, so to the same size as this but just white. Now I am using these butterfly wall stickers, and you want to make sure that you have a size that's going to be able to show through the glass, so the little frames here. And the other thing that we have to be careful with is making sure that we center the butterflies. So you can see here, I'm going to try to use this as a template. So I'm going to go with this butterfly here. Got to be really careful when removing these because sometimes they can tear at the wings. And I like these because they pop a little bit. They're like 3D. So I'm just placing it over so I can kind of get an estimate. I'm going to leave my finger here, remove that, and try to stick it down directly. And that seems to be working, so I'm just going to carry that on now with the other two butterflies. Going to bring your frame back, and we're going to turn it around, get your paper with the butterflies, and then you're going to place it inside the frame, and then we're going to close all of these backings, and then there you go. Second DIY done. Let's move on to the third. Now for the third and final DIY, you're going to need a mason jar, so I'm just going to remove what's inside. And it's completely down to you if you want to paint or cover your lid. I'm going to keep it like this because I like this vintage look. And then you're also going to need some material. I got this from Poundland. It was a fat quarter. So I've already used it, you can see, for a previous DIY last year. And all you're going to do is basically cut a small bit so you cover the lid area. So what we're going to do is have the lid go on top and then a little bit of material coming down like this. So I do suggest actually putting it on because that way it's easier to cut. You can see how much material you actually want on there. Once you've done that, you're going to take some moss and we're going to just line the bottom of our mason jar. I got this dried bit of plant or flower from my garden and I'm going to add some colour to it with this sponge brush and my acrylic paint. So we're just going to dab it on. Now I'm going to set that to dry. I'm also going to use this foam moss ball, and I also have more of these dried bits from my garden that I'm going to hot glue on to here. Actually, I found that it's easier just to make a hole with my scissors and then just poke it inside the hole. I'm going to add a bit of white colour and contrast, and I'm going to clip these with my pliers, and again we're going to just poke it through the foam. I'm also going to take some of these berries and again do the same thing, just poke some holes into here and we're going to pop them in. Okay, so now I've just placed everything inside. I really like that. I think it looks like real lavender. And then finally you're going to take a twig or a stick and a butterfly. This is a sticker. You can print one out if you don't have one, and then you're going to hot glue it to your stick. This has self-adhesive little sticky backing here, so I don't need to hot glue it. I'm just going to place him on the twig there. Then we're going to put this inside the mason jar and attach the lid with the material, and we're done. So here's a look at all 3 DIYs, starting with the first one and then the second. This is how it looked before and then this is how it looked after. I absolutely love this transformation. And then the third one, please do let me know which one of these are your favourites in the comments below. We're going to be starting off with our first DIY, and this is suitable for wedding centerpieces as well. You're going to need something like this. I got this from the thrift store. And then you're going to use some scatter crystals. You're going to open these up and we're going to line the base of this glass. You can go with lots of different options here. You can go with any type of colours that you like. Next, I'm going to use this artificial plant here. So I'm going to cut its size using my pliers. Then you're going to place your plant inside. So here's mine. You're going to fill it up with water. So we're going to completely fill it up. And then you're going to take a tea light. You can get a floating tea light. You can use a LED tea light if that's what you like. They do waterproof ones. So here's mine. I filled it all up with water. I'm going to remove the foil piece from this tea light. And then we're simply going to place it on top, and we are done with the first DIY. Right, for our second DIY, you're going to need a canvas. You're also going to need some lace. So I've got a small canvas size here. It's 20 by 25 centimeters or 8 by 10. So here's my piece of lace, and I'm going to cut it so that we've got half of it because this is too big for me. Now the other thing is that I don't want this the ivory colour that it is. I want it like a baby pink colour, so I'm going to have to paint it. That did take some time, but at least I finally got the right colour and it's painted, so I'm going to let this dry before we move on. While we wait for that to dry, I'm going to move on to something else I can do. I'm going to use this word here, Grateful Wooden Embellishment. It comes from the works for 75p, it is on sale. I'm going to take my acrylic painter pen and then we're going to paint this white. This is all nice and dry now. I actually like the colour. It did come out darker than I thought, but I really do like that colour. So now I'm going to remove all of this packaging so that we can start working on the canvas. You're going to take your hot glue and you're going to glue the sides down on either side of the canvas. I'm going to remove this sticky foam pad and then we're going to just stick it onto the lace in the centre using our hot glue. Next you're going to take this pearl bead garland and you're going to cut it to size and stick it. For the last final thing, I have this beautiful pin here. I'm going to cut it with my pliers right at the edge here, and then we're going to hot glue it down just above the Grateful. For the third and final DIY, you need a teacup and saucer. I've got this beautiful one here. Just ignore what's inside, that was from a balloon. And the next thing you're going to need are some flowers. So I'm actually not going to hot glue these down. They should be able to kind of sit without me needing to use the hot glue, just so I can reuse everything. I'm actually going to start on the saucer. I've got this bright pink flower that I'm going to use, and I've just took these off the stems. You just rip them off, and these are like the foam type of roses. So I'm going to place that here, and then I'm also using this pearl necklace I got from the thrift store. This is optional, but I just think it kind of adds to that vintage shabby chic look. And I want it draping over the flower a little bit here on the side. And And then I'm going to just pop these in and arrange them to how I like. And here's the third and final DIY for today. Which one is your favourite? Let me know down below. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. I would really appreciate if you can show me your support by leaving me a thumbs up, sharing this video with others and subscribing if you haven't already. You're going to need some cardboard. You're also going to want to draw a bird out. I've got this template here, so I'm just going to cut it out. And as you can see, you also want a tiny square like this. I will try to leave you this template in the description box. So it's completely down to you how many birds you want. I'm probably going to have 3. So for each one, you're going to want to draw this out twice, and you just want one of these. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to lay your birds like this. One this side, one underneath, and then you want to take the small square and place it in between the two. Then you want to take a strip of sellotape and give it a little snip. And what you want to do is place it underneath your birds. So let's just place it here. And place your birds on top. You want to place your little square underneath the bird on the sellotape, and then the other bird directly underneath. Okay, so I'm going to do it again because I've got 2 pairs. Taking my sellotape, cutting a little bit off. I'm going to place it underneath. Just again, place your bird on top, in the centre, just at the bottom, and then square on top, or actually underneath your little bird. And then lastly, the bottom bird, just in the middle there. Got a little bit of excess on the sides, so I'm going to just nip that and cut it off. Once you've done that, you can take some hot glue. I'm going to apply a small amount at the beak and the tail. Then you're going to stick the two together. So again, doing the same with the other, applying some hot glue on the tail and the beak. And then just sticking them together. And now you're going to take some wire and make tiny feet. So basically I'm just creating small hoops, little circles like this for the feet, and then just repeating that 3 times. Twirling it round, hooping it, twirling it round, and then when I'm on the final one, just take a bit out like this and cut it. Once you've got your feet ready, you can hot glue it on the bottom. Okay, now for the next part, it's completely down to you what you'd like to cover your birds with. I've got a little bit of a ripped book. One of my friends has a child and she knows that I do some crafts and she gave me this. So I thought I'll put it to some good use. So what we're going to be basically doing now is some paper mache. To do that, you're going to need some Mod Podge or PVA glue. I've got a bowl here and I'm going to mix the PVA with some water. Now you're going to tear some strips off whatever you're using. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and basically all we're going to do is dunk it into our mixture or our glue, and then we're going to cover these birds up. So lots of mess later. We're going to allow these to dry. This one's already drying, but this one, just because I've just kind of finished with it now, it's really wet, so I'm going to pop these on the radiator. Alright, so once your bird is dry, you can go in and decorate it. So I'm going to use my acrylic painter pens. I'll leave a link for these in the description box. So this is like my background to work with. Now I'm going to go in with more detail with my black Sharpie pen. Then you're going to draw his eye and beak, and again I'm just going to use my black Sharpie to do that. I'm going to add a little white dot in the eye, and to do that I'm going to use acrylic and my dotting tool. I'm also going to colour these in with various shades of green. So now I'm going to decorate the second one. Moving on to the second DIY, this is what it looked like before. I already started spray painting it and I forgot to show you what it looked like, so thankfully I had that image. It was just too bold, too bright for me, so I went and I spray painted it white. I need to do a few more layers. I'm going to cover the roof with some burlap, so to do that I just went ahead, took my ruler and measured the roof, and then cut some burlap out to match the size. I cut out 4 pieces in total and I just stuck them down with my hot glue. I took this lovely piece of lace, it has pearls on, and I just decided to cut some of that off and hot glue onto one of the sides just for that extra bit of detail. I had this really lovely dove ribbon that I've always wanted to use, so I finally got to do that. I cut 2 of them off and then I just hot glued that. I'm adding some hot glue to the sides of my birdhouse, and then I'm taking some of this white curly moss and just adding that on. Now this is optional, you can then take a bird and stick him on the birdhouse, but because I've got the 2 birds I've made in the previous DIY on this video, I decided to go without this one in the end because it was just too many birds. Then I decided I want to make this radon inspired, so I took my pencil and I just wrote fly and I went over it with my permanent black marker. So here's a completed project, starting off with the bird DIY. I hope that you have enjoyed these tutorials and that they've brought you inspiration. Please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and a comment, make sure you subscribed and share this video with others. I'd absolutely love if you could do that. Today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to transform something as old and gross looking as this tin here, which I actually bought from the thrift store. I know it's a piece of junk, but that's what crafters do. We take things that people throw away and we turn them into something magical. So I hope that you enjoy this video. Let's get started. So we're going to start by working on the outside of the tin first, so this front side here. So I've got this fairy door which I'm going to stick down later, but for now I'm just going to draw alongside it. So you can see my outline there. And now we're going to take some of this poly filler. I'm going to use it so that I can stick some stones in there. So I've got my gravel here. So we're just going to smooth this over. I have my lollipop stick here. Now we're going to paint all of the gaps brown. Now I'm going to go over all of this with my Mod Podge. This is just to make sure that the stones and everything is sealed in. Okay, I've let this dry overnight. I'm really happy with that. It's all nice and secure. So now I'm going to glue my fairy door onto the tin here. If you don't have a fairy door, you can make one using craft sticks. It's fairly simple. So now I'm going to carry on decorating the outside before we move into working on the inside. I've got this curly moss here and I think it's just going to make it look really nice and natural and wild. I'm going to stick it to the edge of the tin, just along the top bit here. So I'm carrying on decorating the outside. I'm taking some of these natural dried plants and flowers. I actually stuck lots of artificial ones down and I just was not happy with it. So I peeled it all away and I just deleted all of that footage. So you can see I've got a little artificial plant there next to the fairy door. You'll see me peel that and just throw that away and stick down some nice realistic plants there as well. I actually did this for inside as well. Like I stuck down all of these artificial flowers and lots of different plants and stickers and jewels, and I just got rid of it all and just went natural, and I was so much happier with that. So now I'm going to start working on the inside of the tin. I'm going to start by just removing this, and we're going to try and get all of this off. This isn't actually hot glue, this is just another type of glue that has left this like residue, but it's not actually sticky. The thing that I'm going to struggle with most is removing all of this. It's like a foam pad. Anyway, I'm going to try to get started. I've got this little tool here and I've got my sandpaper. This is going to go inside my tin. So what I went and done was searched up musical notes on Google and I printed this on card. This was just from my inkjet printer, so it doesn't have to be anything fancy. You can do this on paper and you can leave it as it is. It does look nice and vintage, but I am going to go over it with a little bit of watercolor paint in blue. So I've got my water here. Don't want to do too much, it's just so that it kind of looks like a sky, a nice blue summer sky. And this is brand new. What I like about watercolour paint is it's kind of like ink. You can still see the background, but it just adds a nice amount of colour to it. So now it's all nice and dry, I'm just going to cut this out. So I've cut two pieces out, one for each side. Then you're going to take your Mod Podge and apply it to the inside, working one side at a time. Okay, once you've got everything inside, we're going to go over it with some Mod Podge just to make sure it's all stuck down, and you can do that with your gloss or your matte. Next we're going to be adding in some bright green moss. Okay, remember earlier in the video when I told you that I also changed everything inside the tin? So that's why like it just cuts and you just see this. So completely ignore everything that's inside other than the butterfly because I changed it all up anyway. I've stuck a little gem down on the butterfly just to give it dimension. You could do the same again with those sticky pads. I just thought that this adds a little bit more height to it. So I'm going to add my hot glue to that and stick him down. I'm going to take my gloss Mod Podge to go over the butterfly because I want it to kind of stand out from all of the rest. I'm starting off with this wooden fence. I'm going to kind of stain it using some watercolour white paint. What I like about watercolour paint is that it dries really quick, so you can just get on with your project as well. So now I'm just sticking in the fence, again with hot glue. Got to be really quick when you're working with hot glue because it just dries so fast. So I haven't got that centred. There you go. I'm making use of some real dried flowers. Just sticking those down. I always prefer them as opposed to artificial, but of course it's so easy to get hold of artificial flowers. It takes a while drying flowers out. This lavender, it was actually from a wreath. I just used my pliers and I got that from the thrift store, so it's a good buy because there's lots of it and I can use it for a ton of projects. Now here, this is actually real. It's dried. I went to the park the other day and got a few things and I dried them in a book. Look how beautiful that is. And this is also a real flower. They're just so gorgeous. Go and stick that onto the fence. And then some of this, I think this part here will do nicely. We'll stick that down to the moss. Just think the colours are amazing. It's such a nice mix. Okay, I am doing it. I have removed some of the artificial stuff on the other side. I'm going to try and replace it with as much natural stuff that I've got. I think you have to be kind of brave to rip everything apart and pretty much start over. You know what, these smell so good. Goodness, I think it's going to be wonderful when you open this tin up, and it also smells really fragrant. And this is the finished project. Can you believe what we started out with and what we now have? I'm so happy with how it came out. This project did take me a little longer than usual, I'm not going to lie, but I think it was because there was so many different elements to it. The front of the tin did take a lot of work with the polyfiller and the gravel, but I'm just so happy with it. I mean, it's one less thing in the landfill and it's definitely a magical little art piece. When you open it up, it really does smell lovely as well. So to start off with, you're going to need a piece of bark. I've got this from the park and I did use this for a previous project. You can see some of the snow on there. This was for a Christmas DIY. You're also going to need this. Now this is again something from a previous DIY. I used a wicker basket like this, so it's just basically the handle. And I thought that this will come in handy now and it's going to be perfect for this project. So I do have one end here that's higher than the other. So I've got another twig here and it is a different colour, but hopefully that won't be seen because we're going to be covering it up with some moss. So I'm going to try to cut it and fit it to size so that it matches this side here, and I'm just going to glue that with some hot glue, and then we're going to stick it onto our bark here with some hot glue as well. I'm just going to reinforce that with some twine because it's having a little hard time with just the hot glue alone. Again, this will be covered, so I'm hoping it won't really be seen. Okay, so that's done now. I'm going to just center this on my bark and then hot glue it down. Okay, we're going to reinforce this again, and this time I'm going to use some rocks. So you're going to stick one either side, just to make sure it's nice and secure and it doesn't fall off. Okay, now we've got our structure done. We're going to cover all of this with some moss. So here is my moss part. I'm going to stick that down again with hot glue. Next, you're going to make use of an artificial plant. I've taken some leaves off. This is 2 different types, as you can see, and I'm just going to add in some more detail on our bark little log piece, and I'm going to stick these on using my hot glue again. Now I'm going to add some colour. I'm going to use these little miniature mushrooms. And now I'm going to add in a few flowers as well. Now I'm going to be using this. This was actually a headband, you know, one of those floral headbands. And I've just opened it up so that I can wind it around this whole area here. Okay, so I've just finished doing that. I've also wrapped around some fairy lights. This is just an option for you. I've got it at the back here so it can't be seen, but you can also slide it onto here. There is a gap. There you go, you can see it now. I'll just show you how it looks with the lights on. I think it looks really nice, but I don't know, I think it might take away from it here. So I might go without it, but this is just an option for you. Just wind it around. If you can get these ones that have wire around, you can see here. You get the LED lights and you can get different versions. I always like the wire ones because you can mold them to anything like how I have done here. Just shape them and they fit perfectly. Okay, now we're done and I've showed you the option with the fairy lights. I also want to show you a few options what you can include in the middle. So I've got this fairy here. You can include a fairy. I've got a lying down fairy as well. There's that. And then I've got this cute fox. You can change these up as well for the seasons. Don't know if you'd like to stand, but yes, you will have to stick them down. But there's the fox. And then I've got this bunny here. And if I am using him, I'll get rid of this little one here because, of course, it takes it out of scale. But yeah, you can do this for spring, Easter times. And then I've got this. Not great quality, it was from Poundland. Oh, I don't know how his toes have been chipped, but there you go, that's just another option. And then I also have this, which I quite like if you're looking to make this maybe for like wedding centerpieces or something. How pretty is that? And with the fairy lights, I think that would work really well. Then if you're doing this for a child's nursery or room decor, or even a baby shower centerpiece, you can have a unicorn on there. So I've just shown you a few options, but I'm actually going to go with something a little bit different. So I've got this from the thrift store, and I'm going to also use a beautiful hummingbird. And we're going to dangle him from the top there. So I'm actually going to make this look more magical. I'm taking these fairy lights and I'm going to hot glue it. They are waterproof. I'm going to hot glue it to the bottom here, and then I'm going to pour some water over it. I'll just switch that on so you can see what I mean. I just think that really makes it look so much more enchanted. Okay, I've got one last thing to do now, which is to hang my hummingbird. I'm going to remove this silver string here, and I'm going to replace it with a longer string, but also this clear string here, which is usually used for jewellery. So I'm just going to bring you closer so you can have a look at what I've done here. You're going to take your clear string, wrap it around your wicker handle here, make 2 knots just to make sure it's nice and secure. I did also use a little amount of hot glue, but you do have to be careful. It can sometimes just completely melt it. So you just got to make sure your hot glue isn't too hot. And there you go. Look at how beautiful that is. And this is the finished project. Look at how magical it is. I'm so pleased with how it's come out. I really love sweet creations like this, and I love anything inspired by nature. I also love that you can change it up, like the centerpiece in the middle as I showed you before. So yeah, I know I'm not going to get bored with it either. Then you also have the option with the fairy lights, which looks nice when you've got your room light on, but it looks so cool when it's switched off. It just makes it look so mesmerizing. I also like how realistic and fun the hummingbird is. So if you give it a tap like this, it just flies around and it just looks so nice. For the first DIY, you're going to be starting off with some branches, and you can do this as big as you want. I am making it into a small miniature window, but like I said, you can go as big as you like and even use this as a wreath idea. So you're going to need 4 branches at the beginning anyway, just to create the foundation, and you want to make sure they're all the same size. Once you've done that, you're going to align them together and you're going to stick them down with hot glue. You can also use twine in the corners if you like. Once you've done that, you're going to start working on the inside of the window. So you want 2 bits of branches. You're going to have one going this way and then one going that way. Now you're going to build on the foundation just to give it more depth and make it look more 3D. I'm taking some more branches. This one is a little bit different, and then I'm hot gluing it down and then just snipping them to size using my pliers. Now for the next step, you're going to need some flowers to decorate your windowsill. I am using real ones, but you can use artificial ones. Then once you're done with that, you can take some of these decorative butterfly stickers, and I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue to it. It does come with those sticky foam pads, but they're on either side of the butterfly and I need it to stick in the center, so that's why I'm applying hot glue. But all you're going to do is just stick it to your window wherever you like. And of course you can do this in whatever style you want, so it doesn't have to be butterflies, it can be birds, or even just keep it plain. I think this DIY is great for spring as well as summer, and it can also be for a fairy garden. Now the last thing we're going to do is take some twine. We're going to wrap it around these 2 ends so that it can be wall hanging. So I'm just looping it, as you can see here on the twig, and then we're going to knot it. And here's the first DIY all completed. I just find it so sweet. It really just hit the spot for me, and I really love whimsical rustic DIYs. So yeah, I'm really happy. For the next DIY, I'm going to be making a wreath, and this is so simple, guys. I just found this in my garden and I knew straight away, because it was so flexible, that I can turn this into a wreath. So I'm just bending it to the desired shape kind of thing, and then I'm taking some green wire just to wrap it around so that it's all stuck in place. I also took my pliers just to snip it because scissors didn't do it, it was quite thick. I really loved this already. I just thought it's so naturally beautiful, so even though I like the simplicity, I wanted to add a little bit more to it, but not too much so that it doesn't take away from it. So I took this part of a plant, it was off a tree, and I added it to the center at the top of the wreath using the same floral wire. Then I took the same flower, but I just cut a little bit off because it was really big, just to add to the sides of the wreath, as you can see on the left and the right side of it. Then I took this cute bird, which isn't that great quality, but it looks pretty good from afar, so I took my hot glue and added him on the bottom. And here it is all finished. It's pretty simple to make, but I think it looks so pretty. I hope that you have enjoyed watching as well. I'm going to be starting off with this frame. I got it from Poundland. So I'm going to just remove the wood. And I'm not going to be using the frame. And so I'm going to use this part here, just the back. I'm removing the label. Now we're going to set this aside, and you're going to mix up some paint, or use whatever colour you want. I'm going to mix this one here and this together. And then once you have the colour that you want, you're going to bring back your piece of wood, and I'm going to just apply some paint on there. And then I'm going to use my roller Okay, so now I'm just going to wait for this to dry. My first layer has dried, but it does need another layer, so I'm just going in with a second coat. I think that should be it with 2 coats, so I'm going to let this dry now. For the next part, I'm going to be using some stamps. If you don't have any, you can use your Cricut, for example, if you've got that. We're just going to create some lettering. I'm going to spell out be humble. You can do be kind. You can write summer, for example, anything that you like. And I'm using this block just so that I can get it as straight as possible, because I always seem to have that problem whenever I'm stamping some lettering. Next, you're going to want a vase of some kind. I've got this little glass one, and I'm also going to take some twine. I'm going to wrap it along the neck of this glass and tie a little bow. Once you've done that, you're going to stick it to your wood, and we're going to do that with E6000. I'm just weighing this down with my glue gun, and I'm going to give it some time to dry, and then I'll come back. Okay, I think this is all set. Nice and secure. So all you're going to do now is take your flowers and insert them inside. And then for the final thing, you're going to take a backing. I don't have one, so I'm having to just, kind of improvise. So I'm going to turn it around, and then all I'm going to do is just hot glue that on the centre at the back here, just so that you can hang it on the wall. So you don't have to, because it does stand on its own like this, but if you want to hang it on a wall, it's just nice to have that option. And this is the finished project. I really love the colours that I've used. I don't typically go for these kind of colours, so you're going to need one of these. I am using miniature size, but it's completely down to you which size you'd like. So once you have your bauble, you also need a tea light. So you're going to take your tea light, turn it on, place it inside the bauble, and we're going to cover this up with some moss. Okay, so you can see you can still access the back and the battery pack and turn it on and off. So now I'm going to just give it a trim because it's a bit too thick. Now this is optional, but all I'm going to do is take some of these artificial flowers off. And you can see they're not so great quality, but they don't look so bad when you stick them on. So I'm going to just attach them with hot glue this way around. And then I have this pack of butterflies. If you don't have anything like this, you can just go ahead and print out a butterfly onto some card. That will do. Once you have your butterfly, just give it a bit of a fold like this, so it just looks a bit more realistic. And then all we're going to do is attach that on to the tea light with some hot glue. So I just swapped the butterflies. I chose 2 smaller ones instead, just so that it's easy to close. The other one didn't quite fit. I think these make such wonderful gifts, as well as something you can sell in craft fairs perhaps. So the next thing I'm going to do is just remove this little bit off an old broken bauble, which I've already done. Here it is. So I'm just going to stick that on here, just to make it look a bit prettier. And then for the final bit of detail, just take some twine, string, wrap it around the front and make a small bow. And here's the final project. I'm so happy with it. This is definitely one of my favourite projects to date. I just think it's super cute. It looks so magical. I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial. You can also use this as deco for spring, summer or even Christmas. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and a comment and making sure you've subscribed. You're going to need a canvas. I don't have one. I only have a canvas board, so that's what I'm going to be using. Feel free to choose whichever you want. Now this step is optional. You can use the surface of your existing canvas board, or you can print out some images and cut those up and use those. You can stain it with some tea or coffee, which I'm going to be doing, but I am adding a little bit of texture to the board, and it's going to be sort of like a mixed media project. And so I found this in my stash. I think it's some leftover tablecloth kind of thing, but what I like is that it's got some faded patterns on there. The camera is picking it up, there you go. And I think that those might come out really nicely when I put the tea bag on top. I am hoping that it comes out how I imagine. So what I'm going to do is use my glue stick to stick this down and cut it to size. I'm just going to use my hot glue because I've got a little bit of trim here, a little extra excess, so I'm going to stick that down just like this. Okay, so this is my board all done. I'm ready to stain it now. Unfortunately, it's not really picking up that well on the camera. You can see some of the patterns there in the background, and it is textured like material as well. So it's kind of exciting. We'll see how it comes out. And in the meantime, my tea has had time to cool down, so that's great. It's working! I'm so happy. At least you'll be able to see the texture come through now. I really wanted something simple but effective, and I'm so happy that this has worked out and I even found this because I didn't plan it. I also think it's nice to have some bits where the colour is darker and some bits where it's lighter. Whoops. And I'm going to go in a bit darker on the edges as well. It's probably a good idea to have 2 tea bags on hand because this one's starting to rip. I'm also allowing a little bit of the tea bag bits to come out basically, just like this in lines. I don't know, I feel like it will... Okay, that's too much. Let's get rid of some of that. Just adds a little bit to the texture and makes it look more interesting. Okay, I'm going to let this dry before moving on to the next part. So I'm going to stick this on top of my radiator or outside because it is sunny at the moment. And while that dries, let's clean some of this mess. Next, we're going to do a little bit of recycling and we're going to make use of some of these paper shreddings. So you're going to take a bunch and we're going to make it into like a circle, kind of like a nest, and we're going to stick it in the center. We're also going to mix in a bit of plant tie. And then once you have all of this, we're going to stick it together with some hot glue. And And to finish this look, I'm going to take some butterfly stickers. These are actually wall stickers, and what I like about them is that they're 3D and what beautiful colours they are. I love the gold specks on there, and they come in different colours and sizes. So if you don't have a butterfly sticker, of course, just go and print one off the internet onto some card, cut it out, and then you can just stick it on. And what we're going to do is stick it in the centre. And look at how it just makes the whole project come together. I'm going to leave off here, but I do have another suggestion, and it's completely down to you if you do it. But I thought maybe you can add butterfly down here or up here. You can stamp it in, maybe write spring. You can even use some lettering. I've got some wooden lettering here, and it would have gone nicely, but I don't know. I just really wanted to keep it simple and have the focus here. And so this is how the final project has come out. So today I'm going to show you how to make a miniature garden. This is going to be extra special because we're going to be placing it inside here. So this is like one of those shabby chic suitcases that you can store things in, and they usually come in threes. You're going to begin by lining this, so you want to do that with something that's waterproof. Once you've done that, you're going to take your soil. I'm just using regular potting soil, and you're going to place that inside. Once you've done that, you want to cover all of the soil with some moss. I've got two types of moss here. I've got this, which is generally used for reptiles, so you can find it in the pet shops. And then I have some moss that's much greener and lots of different mixtures inside here. This is like my moss terrarium, and you can get this from your gardens or from parks. What's great about growing your own terrariums, if you've got them from the park or your garden, is that you'll see all of these other little plants sprouting through, which really adds a nice extra detail. Once you've covered it all with moss, you can then go in and add all your little fairy bits. So I'll show you a few variations. You can put the house here, and then maybe place a fairy there. I've got this swirl, which I will place there. And then a little chair and table. So you can go for something like this, like the typical sweet fairy world, and I usually do go with that, but today I kind of wanted to change it up a little bit, so I'm going to go for a more basic, mature look. So I'm going to start off with this footpath. Because it's quite big, I'll show you, I'll put it here, and as you can see the length is quite long. Comes all the way to here, so I'm going to have to put this house on top and try to camouflage that little bit here with some moss. But yeah, this is the look I'm going to go for, something that is quite different to what I usually do. I just kind of wanted something simple. I wanted it to look like a real miniature world, so I'm using one of these vintage houses. I think it might actually have the date somewhere. No, it usually does, but I collect these, so I do want to put them to some use. So I'm going to start moving some of that moss around, just so we can camouflage the house a little bit. Now as for the lid, I'm going to let it stand just by resting on the house naturally, but if yours doesn't work like this, you can add in some twigs here so that it holds it up. And it's completely down to you if you want to cover the lid, so you can cover it with moss, anything you like. I really like the design, so I'm going to keep it this way. And I'm just going to show you can even keep it simple. This is just an old bunting that I've made that says spring, but I think a bunting would look quite cute on there. So something like this. I'm going to go without, but like I said, it's just down to you. These are some options you can go with. Now, I did want to mention I have used moss, so if you do use moss, that's completely fine. You don't have to worry about drainage. All you need to do is simply mist it. But if you decide to use flowers and other plants, then I would suggest using a syringe so that you can direct the water to the roots and you don't put too much water basically, because this doesn't have drainage holes and the water doesn't have anywhere to go. So I'm going around my garden looking for other little bits I can add in, so that the landscaping looks a little bit more interesting. So have a look around and see what you can find. Anything that just adds some colour and interest. You can see it's coming along really nicely. Just adding in all these little extra bits. And so this is the final project. I have a vintage rustic farmhouse DIY for you. It's also another hack that I wanted to share with you all. These are really nice as decor as well as handmade gifts, and you can also sell these at craft fairs. So the first thing you're going to need are some frames, and you can get these from Dollar Tree or from Poundland. I am using 4 frames just to show you for this DIY, but of course you can use 1 or however many you like. Now this is really simple and easy, but I promise you it looks so effective. Because it's really hard to get hold of a vintage book in an A4 size so it can fit your frames, I managed to look for one and find one online, and it's so beautiful because it actually is vintage and there's really gorgeous illustrations and it's all about flowers, so I will leave that for you in the description box. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do, is print some of that text off. I have 4 pages to fit my 4 frames. Then once you've done that, you want to go onto Google or whatever search engine you use, and you want to type in anything you're looking for. So if you're doing a bee theme, for example, you can do Alice in Wonderland. You just want to find some images and you want to make sure that the background is white. That's super important. So I've gone and looked for some bee images, made sure the background is white, and then what you want to do next is put these back into your printer, but what you want to do is turn them over like this, so that when they go into the printer and they come out, they're coming out on this side here. So then once you've put these inside the printer, you can then go and print out your bee images or whatever images you've chosen to do, and what's going to happen is that they're going to basically print on top of these. Okay, so this is my printer tray. These are my vintage text printouts. I'm going to put them in this way. Slot that back into the printer, and now all we need to do is go and print our images out. And before you print your image out, make sure that you resize it so that it fits whatever size you're working with in your frame. So I'm working with A4, so I just made sure that I enlarge this image, and then you're ready to print. There you go, look at how it's come out. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm just going to go and print a few more out. So once you're done, this is how they're going to come out. Absolutely beautiful. I really do love these. Look at this one. So gorgeous. On the 4th one, I kind of was running out of some ink, so it hasn't come out very strong. So this is definitely my least favourite. And on the images that I did choose, I did want kind of like a drawing, illustration, watercolour effect, so that it actually looks like art, which I think really adds to it because it looks like a mixed media piece. So I do suggest doing that instead of looking for clip art or anything like that. These just look so much better in my opinion. So let's get them into the frames now. So for your frames, you want to remove all of the backing, because the printouts in the A4 size don't fit this frame exactly, so we're going to need to cut its size. And the way that I do that is I remove all of this, and then I use the paper that's inside as a template. So you're just going to pop them over your printout. We're going to draw along this and then cut it out. So when I was cutting it out, I realised some of them have got white borders on, depending on what pages you print out from that vintage book that I found. So what I've done is printed an extra paper out so that I can cut the borders and then just fill all of this white space. Okay, so now I've done that, you're just going to take your papers and place them inside the frame, and then we're going to bring back the backing, insert that in, and just secure that. So here's all of the completed projects, all 4 frames. I love how they came out. I'm just so excited to see what you all think. I just think it's a great hack. I hope that you have enjoyed me sharing this and this tutorial. If you have, as always, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, share this video with others, leave me a comment down below and subscribe if you haven't already. I really love projects like this. Are really quick, simple and easy to do, but they come out so effective and it really looks high-end. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. As you saw in the thumbnail, I have 3 DIYs for you today to enjoy. So I'm starting off with this old watering can that I found in the thrift store, and I'm going to give it a makeover, give it a new life, and I'm starting off with spray painting it white. So here's my spray painted watering can, and I've just started painting this little end here. I'm also going to paint this handle, and what I've been using is some watercolours, which I know is kind of weird. I generally use acrylic, but I found that they work really well on ceramics. So I've just gone and mixed in some red and white so I can get a nice pink colour. You're going to need a sign like this. I printed this off Google. I just typed in something like French vintage flower market or something like that. I have recorded exactly what I did, so you'll see that on the screen here. So I'm just going to cut this out and stick it onto my watering can using some Mod Podge. So once you've cut it out, you just want to give it a little rip on all of the edges because we want this to look a little bit natural, a bit old, and this is far too neat because we've just cut it out using some scissors. So I'm going to carry on doing that and then we'll stick it on. Next, I'm using an old wreath. I'm taking some of the lavender off it, so I have 3 pieces here, and then I'm going to stick it on here using some hot glue. I'm choosing to use lavender because it's quite old and vintage. It kind of goes in with the whole style that I'm doing. I did try these flowers, but I don't know, I did prefer this, so I'm going to go ahead with that. And then to finish this look off, you're just going to take a little nice pink bow and hot glue that on the lavender. Just here. How cute is that? So this is the first DIY, let's move on to the second. For the next DIY, you're going to need some pieces of paper or card. I've got 2 pieces here, and then you're going to want a cup of coffee. Not for you this time, this is for the DIY. So we're going to go ahead and stain this paper using coffee. Once you're done, put them out in the sun or on top of a radiator so that they can dry. Now I'm going to take an old book. This is just to give it some depth without me needing to use a ton of papers. So then you're going to take your 2 or however many papers you've coloured. I honestly think you only need 1 or 2. I'm going to place it on top, centred on the book. So just to show you, got the 2 papers here, the book here, and then it's just centred on the book like that. Then I went onto Google and I typed in something like vintage rose illustration or drawing, and I've just printed this out onto some card. So what I'm going to do here is just cut it out, but kind of using my fingers because I don't want it too neat. Now once you've done that, you're going to place that in the centre of your papers, and then we're going to tie this together using some natural plant tie. And I've just gone ahead and made a bow in the middle. And that's it, we're done with the second DIY. I really love how this came out. Let's move on to the third and final one. We're going to be making use of some of these little miniature wood slices, and we're going to be doing some decoupage. So for your decoupage, you're going to need your Mod Podge. Again, you can use your matte or gloss Mod Podge. And then you're going to need your napkins or your rice paper. These make adorable little gifts. You can even turn them around and add a magnet, so you can have them as fridge magnets, for example, or you can even turn them into necklaces. I'm going to leave mine as they are because I just think they're cute the way they are. Then you're going to take your napkin and rip the part that you like out. So I'm going to take some of these flowers. This is one of my favourite napkins and I always love to do decoupage with it. And then if you have any excess, like these little pink bits, you can just go and rip them off as well. So you're going to take your wood slice, take a little bit of Mod Podge, don't want too much, and then apply it onto your wood. Then you're going to apply your napkin on top, smooth out all of the lines. Once you've done that, going to go over it with another layer of Mod Podge. This time I'm going to use this rice paper for another flower. I do prefer napkins over the rice paper. If you want to give these more of an aged vintage look, you can take some sandpaper and just go over it gently. Now I want to show you another way to transfer your flowers onto these wood logs. So if you don't have any napkins and you can't do any decoupage, this is a hack or one of my little secret tricks to show you, and you can use this for transferring any image onto wood. So the first thing you're going to need is a piece of card or paper. You're also going to need some wax paper. Then what you want to do is roll your wax paper and you want to cut it to the size of your A4 paper. So because we don't want the grease paper to get jammed inside the printer, you want to basically turn it around just over the edges. It's a bit noisy, let me just get it over with. Okay, so you want it to look something like this, and then you're going to turn this over, and then you're going to apply a small amount of sellotape just to make sure it's secure. Then we're going to do that with the other side. Just at the bottom, turn your paper around, and then you're going to stick that again with some sellotape. So I'm just going to pop that inside my printer now. Okay, so here's my printout on the wax paper. Then you're going to take your wood or your wood slices, and then you want to slightly dampen it. So I've got a cotton pad here with a bit of water in this cup, and I'm just going to go ahead, just dampen that a little bit because that's going to help transfer the image. And then I'm just going to turn this over and stamp it on one of the flowers. So you can see that's just transferred really nicely. Let's do some more. Just press down. This is an easier way to do it. You can cut them out and then press them down, but because I'm dealing with smaller wood here, I'm just placing them directly over the flowers. And then let's flip that over. You can see. And I really love doing this because you don't get the background in like you do sometimes with decoupage. This is really fun and easy to do, so the kids can get involved as well. There's another one. And once these dry, because it's a bit damp, you can make them look older again using some sanding. So this is how it looks when it's all dry. And so this is how all 3 DIYs have come out. I really love this romantic, shabby chic, vintage kind of style. I love the soft colours and the simplicity in these projects, but how full of character they all are. I hope that you have enjoyed these tutorials and my secret trick on how to transfer images onto wood. If you have, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and a comment. Make sure you share this video with others, and if you haven't already, please do click that subscribe button. Okay, so you're going to need a set of frames. You need 4 in total. It's completely down to you what size you use. These are the sizes I am using, 4x6 or 10x15 centimeters. First thing you want to do is open this up, remove the glass so that you just have the frames. This is optional, you don't have to spray paint it if you don't want to, but I am going to spray paint it white. Honestly, I'm so excited to share this idea with you all. I've had it in my mind for the longest time ever, and I just can't wait to get it out there and get it to be a real thing. And even though this is a spring kind of piece, I'm going to have this in my home all year round. So next thing you're going to do is print a background. I have chose to use a cherry blossom background because I kind of want it to be shabby chic. And I have printed it on some cards just using an inkjet printer. Then you're going to take this piece of paper that was in the frame, and what you want to do is place it on top of your card, and then you're going to draw alongside it 4 times, and then you're going to cut it out. Right, so you're going to come back to your frames now, and we're going to stick this together just like this. And I do recommend using E6000. This is just a cheaper brand that I've managed to find, but I'm going to use a combination of E6000 and hot glue just so that I can speed up the process for the video. So this is optional, but I've decided to go over my print out with some gloss Mod Podge. This is just so that the colours really stand out and pop. And I always say that it makes it look like a hand painting rather than just a printed out image, which I absolutely love. I think it just makes it so much more vibrant, wouldn't you agree? Look at the difference there. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same on all the other 3 images. Once you've finished with that, you want to bring back the glass for the frames, and we're going to insert them all back in. Then you want to bring back your printouts, and we're going to start putting them inside the frames as well. And then you're going to get these backings back, and we're going to slot them back in. And what's good about this is that you can have this piece standing because of this part here, or you can have it hanging at the top using these. Next step is completely down to you. You can give it an age look or a distressed look using some paint, or you can sand it. That's what I'm going to be doing. Once you've done that, you want to tidy up all of the bits that have come off from the sanding. So to do that, I am taking a paintbrush. I'm just getting in all of the corners, making sure it's all clean. Next, we're going to be making the curtains or the net, and to do this you're going to need a bit of lace. We're going to cut this and stick it using hot glue. Just going to turn it over and make sure the lace is stuck here at the back. And then to tie your curtains up, we're going to use this bead garland, and I'm just going to attach it here, just in the center. Then you just want to cut off any excess lace. So I'm going to cut mine off here. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. The next thing you're going to need are these jumbo tower blocks. This is optional, you don't have to create a windowsill, but I felt like something was missing, so that's what I'm going to do. And again, we're going to stick these together. I am using 3, and I'm using a combination again of E6000 and hot glue. Now I'm going to show you one of my favourite tricks on covering wood. If you don't want to paint it, this is an option for you. I printed an image. This is something I just searched on Google. I searched in white distressed wood and I got this image. So what I'm going to do is cut it out and Mod Podge it so that it's kind of like seamless. And I'm going to use my matte Mod Podge for this. You can use glass, it's up to you. And now we're going to go over it with another layer of Mod Podge. Next, I'm going to make use of this little eraser. I'm going to remove this part and I'm going to paint this white, and I'm also going to do this like a radon inspired planter, so I'm going to write grow on there. we're going to stick our windowsill to the bottom of the frame. Again, I'm going to use a combination of glues. So my plant is all nice and dry. Now I'm going to go in with a marker pen just to write grow on there. Then you're going to take an artificial flower head, just like this, and then you can just put that inside. And then lastly, you're just going to place that on the windowsill. And this is the final project. It did take me quite a while to do, but it was so enjoyable. You know when the time just goes really fast because you're having so much fun. In my previous videos, I've taught you a few methods of how to make artificial water, mainly using hot glue. Today I'm going to be teaching you another method. This one uses clear candle gel. So take an old pot, something that you're probably not going to use again, and then put your candle gel inside. Once it's all melted, take some blue wax dye and mix that in. Next, you're going to need to create some kind of barrier. I did this with some masking tape, and you want to do this so that only half of your bowl is filled with the artificial water. Then you're going to need to reinforce that by adding in more masking tape from bottom to top, and then you can go ahead and pour your gel in. Once you've done that, let it set for 30 minutes and then you can gently remove the tape. So the consistency is something like jelly or gelatine, and I promise that was the hardest part of the project. Now you know another way to make artificial water. So then you're going to take some stones. I got these from IKEA and I'm just pouring a small layer. Then you're going to take some soil to cover the stones. Again, you just want a small thin layer, but make sure you don't get any on your artificial water. Then you're going to cover your soil up with some Easter moss. So again, just take a handful, spread it out, make sure all of the soil and the stones are covered. And you also want to cover that little bit that divides the water and the land. Then once you've done that, you want to take your artificial plants. So here I have an artificial air plant, which I absolutely love. So I'm going to put that inside. I also have a small purple succulent, which I'm going to include. It's completely down to you if you want to use real plants or artificial plants. Air plants are generally really low maintenance anyway, but it's just that they're really expensive where I live. These were so affordable for me to buy, so I will include the links for you in the description box if you want to check them out. I decided on these colours because I felt like it's really vibrant and it just pops, and I really wanted a clean, minimalist, sort of simple look for this fairy DIY. I'm adding in a fairy accessory here, just a welcome sign. I thought that went in really nicely and it didn't take too much space. And then lastly, you're just going to add your fairies. I will link this one for you in the description box as well, but I did place her in and then I thought, you know what, she's a little bit too big for this. So I got her out at the end and I decided to swap her with some smaller fairies. And so this is how the final project has come out. So this is my thrift find, a small children's jumper, and I've been thinking about what I can do for spring and Easter, and then I came up with this idea. So what you're going to do is basically cut your sleeves, so around about here. Then once you've done that, you're going to have two same size length sleeves. Then what you want to do is just turn this inside out and do the same for the next one. And then what we're going to do is hot glue the bottoms. Then once you've done that, you're going to turn them back the right way. This is a really quick and easy fun craft, and on top of that we get to recycle. So another thing we're going to be making use of in recycling is some packaging. You're going to start by filling it with some plastic packaging, just to bulk the bottom up. Then once you've done that and it's all sturdy and filled at the bottom, you're going to top it up with some more packaging. So I've got this cardboard packaging, and then I have some shredded newspaper. We're also going to add in some natural plant dye, which I am going to make thinner because this is too thick. So I'm just ripping it in half and then adding it in. Next we're going to take some lace trim and we're going to add it to the center here just to break the colour up. I'm going to glue it down. So we're going to hot glue that in the center. Then I'm going to take this nest here, which I've added a little bit of greenery and flowers to. We're going to place that in the middle here, and then I have a little bird to also add in. Next you want some material and some stamps, so I got this from Poundland, and we're going to stamp in nest. Once you've done that, you're going to cut it out and stick it onto some card. Then you're going to turn this over and take your glue gun, add a little amount just in the middle there, and then take a toothpick and stick it on. And then you're going to take your toothpick and stick it in just at the back there. And that's the first one done. Let's move on to the second. Now for your second one, you're going to take some twine. We're going to stick it at the back here with some glue. And what we're going to do is wrap it around twice. And again, just add some glue and cut it off. And then again, I'm going to add a bow just to the center with some hot glue. You only need a small amount and then press it on. Now we can start working on the inside. And we're going to do the same with this one to fill the inside. I'm just going to take a mixture of packaging and make use of that. Next I'm going to take this wooden rabbit embellishment and I'm going to add him at the front. And then we're also going to make use of these two eggs. I've got one in blue and white, and we're going to stick those right behind him. And then lastly, I'm going to take some of these twigs I got from my garden, and I'm going to just place them inside as well. And then one here on the side, and I'm varying them in lengths as well. And then just one in the front. So this was the before and here's the after. Aren't they just the sweetest things ever? I'm so happy with how these came out. I'm going to begin with this dish or plate here that I got from the thrift store. So this is also going to be like a thrift makeover. I'm just going to give this a clean before we start. Then you want to take some stones. So what we're going to do is build the foundation. So you're going to hot glue these alongside each other on the plate, and then we're going to start building that up. Okay, so you can build this as high or as low as you want, so I've gone pretty high with this one. Obviously, the higher it is, the more shells you'll be able to get in. And next you're going to need a whole load of shells because we're going to start sticking them in place. So it's completely down to you the way that you want to stick your shells. This is the way that I've done it. One up here, there, 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 there. There. You just want to make sure that water can look like it can naturally cascade down from them. Then once you've done that and you've got your foundation in place, we're going to start decorating around the dish and the base. Now I'm going to use some of this moss from my terrarium. You can find this in your garden or a park, it just naturally grows. And what I'm going to do is stick it all along this purple side of the dish. So once you're done, your structure should look something like this. You're also going to take some moss and hot glue it in the grooves of the stones. We're going to make it look as natural as possible. So this is how it looks at the moment. Just added a few bits of moss on those stones. And then next I'm going to take these smaller stones and I'm going to just hot glue them just all around the moss there. So this is as much as I have covered. I've left a little area here for the water. I'm going to add in more greenery, so I've just cut a bit of this off. I think I'm going to stick it here and just do that with some hot glue. I'm also going to make use of some of these dried flowers and add some colour to this just by gluing it here. And then I'm taking some dried baby's breath and also hot gluing that onto the moss. And you want to take your fairies and place them wherever you like so that you know how much space you have to work with. So I think I'm going to put one here and then take the last fairy sister and place her under here. I'm also going to take this unicorn and place him just here. Then I'm going to make use of this wreath I got from the thrift store. I've just taken a piece off and I might add more than one, I don't know, but for now I'm going to glue this right next to the unicorn. Look at how pretty that's coming along. Now we need to start working on the main thing, which is the water. Okay, so to make your artificial water, you're going to need hot glue. Now you can use clear glue. I did make a tutorial using clear glue and then painting it, so I will link that for you. Or you can use these coloured glue sticks. I can also link these for you in the description box. This just makes it a bit faster because we're not going to have to paint it. I've got two glue guns here, so I'm going to use one with clear and one with the blue stick in there. So we're going to start now applying the artificial water using hot glue. I'm starting with my clear one. So the clear is going to be from seashell to seashell, and then inside is going to have the blue colour. Okay, so the first trick is taking some sellotape and cutting it in half, so you've got something the size of this. And then you want to just attach it from seashell. Just be very careful to the middle of the seashell here, so we're going to just cut off the excess. So I'm placing another strip from this one just to here. Again, just stick it down, and this is going to make the structure. You can do this with bits of plastic bottle as well, for example, but sellotape is just way easier. And then again, just sticking that down, and then we're going to repeat the same thing on the last two seashells. So now my glue gun is all hot and the glue stick is just melting, so I'm just dripping it. It's like a crayon almost. Alright, so that's all of my water on the base there. Just make sure that your glue gun has been plugged in for a while so that it melts nicely. I think I'm going to add these in. A lot of you were asking me where I get these little miniature things from. I will leave a link in the description box. I get them pretty cheap, they do come from abroad. Now I'm going to take my clear hot glue, and then we're just going to go over all of these little bits of sellotape. So you definitely need the sellotape down before you go in with your hot glue, because you need that structure so that you can get this desired effect. Okay, so that's all of the clear water done. Now I'm going to go in with my other glue gun, and that has the blue colour in, so that we can start filling the shells in with that colour. And now all I'm doing is going over the blue parts in the shell here with the clear glue, just to make it look a bit more natural, like water, because I feel like it's a little bit too blue. And then you can add in more detailing using some pearl beads, for example. I'm definitely going to add one of these flamingos in as well. And for the final thing, guys, I wasn't happy with this, so I am including these, but because they are on water and this is matte, it just didn't look realistic. It didn't look like they were wet or in water, so I am going to take my gloss Mod Podge and add a layer on the lily pad. Now this is going to dry clear, and then it's just going to look as if it's wet, which is the exact desired look that I want. So I'm just going over the edges So this is another little secret of mine. If you want, for example, your pebbles or rocks to look like they've been splashed with water, add a little gloss Mod Podge. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. You can see the difference now that the Mod Podge has dried. Look at the edges. They're gloss and they sort of look like they have been in water. So that makes it look a lot more realistic. So I'm just going to pop them in now. And this is the finished project. I absolutely loved making this. It did take a while, but you know, I love fairies, I love miniatures, I love all these little worlds, and I have to say this is definitely one of my favourite DIYs and maybe my favourite fairy DIY. So I'm starting off with this little tea light holder in a nice pastel colour. Then I'm also taking this scrap piece of material and I'm going to cut a small amount and place it inside, gluing it with my hot glue gun. So here it is, all cut out and stuck down, and when you do this on your tea light holder, make sure that you stick it so that it's got a little bit of a groove here so that we can put some more materials inside. Next you're going to take a paper doily and then place that inside your tea light holder. You don't have to glue it in place, but if you want to, you can apply some glue on the ends there. Next you're going to use a mix of natural plant tie and moss, and we're going to place it inside here. Now if they are too thick for you, you can make them thinner. Just pull them apart like this. So this is how it looks so far. And then I'm going to add in my moss, just in the centre here. To make your own decoupage paper, you need some tracing paper. Then you want to cut that to an A4 size, and then take your A4 piece of paper, stick the tracing paper onto here with some glue stick. Then you want to make it extra secure by adding some tape on the bottom on both sides. And so here it is. This has just come out of the printer, and I use an inkjet printer. It shouldn't matter if you use inkjet or laser. I did have to print it a few times just for sizing, but yeah, here it is on the tissue paper. So then all you need to do is just remove the sellotape, or just simply cut this out, and then there you go, you've got your decoupage that you've made at home. So all I'm doing now is ripping along the tissue paper, and then we're going to Mod Podge that down. So I have my matte Mod Podge. You can use gloss if you like. So I'm just applying a small thin layer on the back so that we can stick it to our tea light holder. And now I'm just gently going over it with some Mod Podge. So once you've finished doing your decoupage, we're going to let that dry and carry on working over here. So you might have noticed I am going for a vintage vibe here. So this image that I printed was off Google. You can just type in vintage bunny Easter. So here I just typed in vintage chick, and I've got my vintage bunny as well. So I'm going to cut the bunny out because that's the first one we're using for this little basket. So here's my bunny all cut out. Doesn't he look adorable? I absolutely love him. Then I'm taking some wire which I have cut using my pliers, and then we're going to hot glue this on the back here. And then once you've done that, you're going to take your bunny and stick him in the centre. So you can leave it here just like this, or you can make your tea light holder become a basket using a pipe cleaner. I know I don't generally use a pipe cleaner either, but it really does go well with this project and it makes it look more vintage. So if you do decide to transform it into a basket, all you're simply going to do is arch your pipe cleaner and then stick them either side here using some hot glue. Then once you've done that, you can take some of these stickers. They are embellishment pearl stickers, and then you can dot them around on your pipe cleaner. So here it is now with all of my embellishments on, and then finally we're going to add a little bow on here with some hot glue. So I've chosen a really nice peach colour here. And I'm adding one more touch to the ribbon using some of these ivory decor flowers. So I've got the smaller size, and then you can just add it to the top of the ribbon here. You can leave it plain of course if you want, but I just want to add a little bit more to it to make it look more shabby chic. Right, so we have finished the first basket. Let's go on to the second. For this one, it's going to be more simple than the rabbit one. I'm starting off with some moss. You're just going to fill your little tea light holder. Then you're going to take your paper doily and place that inside. Then what you want to do is fold the edges here over, and then you can stick them down as well. Then once you've stuck your doily down, you can go in and start adding to the inside. And to do that, I have just used some of this moss that I used earlier. And I decided on this one, I have got a bright green one, but because I'm doing a vintage style, I did want something not too bright. And then I also added in some of this white curly moss, and then some of the natural plant tie I added in earlier. You just want to make the inside look quite natural and rustic. And then I'm going to cut out these chicks here, and we're going to do the exact same thing as we did with the rabbit earlier. We're going to attach it to some wire using some hot glue. Actually, I haven't needed to add these to some wire because I've got these little feet anyway. They can actually stick inside here without falling. So there we go. I've just gone and added in some of these pearl beads inside here. For the side here, I am going to use this sweet little saying, "Sing Sweet Bird," and I got this from my die cut book. This one here, this was from the Works. Absolutely stunning collection there. And this goes with the vintage theme as well as the colours. So I'm just going to use my glue stick to glue that on. Now again, you can choose to leave off here, but if you want to turn it into a basket, we're going to do the same thing and take this pipe cleaner and add it to the side using hot glue. And then again, I am using a bow. I chose pink so that it corresponds with the Easter rabbit tea light holder. And then for the final thing, I've just added one pearl sticker embellishment in the middle of the bow. And here's completed 2 Easter baskets. I really love the colours on this and the vintage, shabby chic kind of style. I really am pleased with how they have come out. So you're going to want to start with a teapot, and I got this from the thrift store. So we're going to give this sort of like a thrift makeover. We're going to make it a spring shabby chic decor piece for your home. And then you want to take a foam brick and turn it over, and then you want to kind of like stamp it so that you've got the imprint, so that we have basically the measurement here and we can cut it and it's going to fit to size. So then you're going to take your craft knife and then basically just cut around this circle. And then once you've done that, you're just going to squish it inside so that you've got the foam brick looking something like this. Then you want to take your lid and we're going to glue it to the front of our teapot. You can do this with hot glue or E6000. Now we're going to start decorating the lid, and to do that I'm going to be taking some lace and I'm going to tie it on the little knob here, and then we can glue it or you can just make a knot there. So I've just gone and made a knot, and then I'm going to measure it so that they are equal in length and just cut this side. Take some artificial plants, so I've got this little bit here, and I'm going to cut it around about there, and then we're going to stick some here on the top and then some on the lace as well. Next, you're going to take an old book. So I've got this from the charity shop or the thrift store. And I am going to use this heart template just to draw a heart and then cut that out so that we've got this nice vintage font. Once you have your heart cut out, take a tea bag or some coffee, and then we're just going to stain this a little bit more. And then once you've done that, just put it on the radiator to dry. And while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to take this butterfly and do the same thing. So I'm basically using it as a stencil, placing it on top of the paper, and then taking my pencil, drawing along it, and then cutting it out. So we're going to store this away for now, and we will bring it back later when it's time to use it. So let me just go and check to see if our heart is all dried out so we can finish decorating the lid. So I'm back, the heart is all dried up. So next what you're going to do is make a small hole in the centre, just about here, and you can do this with some scissors. Be very careful. And then you're going to take some twine, and then you're going to slide that through the hole that you've made, so just like this. And I'm also taking this pearl bead, And I'm going to slide that through the twine as well. So I also just made a knot there. And once you've done that, just twirl your twine around like this. And then we're going to cut it to size and then bring back our teapot. And then you're going to just hot glue it to the side of the lid. So here is the lid all decorated. And now we can start moving on to this main piece here. You basically want lots of artificial flowers and artificial greenery, but by all means feel free to use live ones. So I'm just taking my scissors here and I'm going to cut off quite a few of these into little bits like this. I've also got a few others and I'm going to do the exact same thing, cut off a few of these so I've got a nice mixture. And then just poke them into your foam brick. So just like this. What I'm doing is cutting and then placing them inside. So you can see now I've stuck in quite a few. I'm also going to use some green moss just to cover all of the little gaps so we don't want any of this foam brick showing. And now you want to start adding in your flowers. So I've got some of these artificial flowers and then you're just going to literally push them into your foam. I'm also going to be making use of this natural plant tie within the floral arrangement. Then once you're done with that, you can then decorate with some baby's breath. So I'm just going to slide that into the foam. You can see how much that adds to it. It just makes it look more real as well, and it breaks away from all of the artificial flowers. And then for the extra detail, you can add some of these pearls. So I'm probably going to add maybe 3, and then we're going to stick that down with some hot glue. Then I'm taking this ribbon, which, by the way, if you need to iron it, just use a hair straightener, it's much quicker. I'm also going to use this ribbon, and it was too thick, so all I did was cut it in half, so that it can look like this, and match the width of this ribbon. So I'm going to hot glue it on the handle here. We're almost done now, so then all you're going to do is stick this down with your glue stick onto some card so that it's more sturdy, and then we're going to cut that out. I'm going to just be curving the wings to make it look more natural. Then take your butterfly and hot glue it just here. And then lastly, I am going to make use of, again, a thrifted item, which is this pearl chain necklace. And I'm not going to open it up or glue it or anything. All I'm going to do is slide that through just here and place it on the side. And here's our finished teapot. Doesn't it look amazing? Who remembers how it looked before? I think it certainly is much happier looking like this rather than sitting sad and lonely on the thrift store shelf. The first thing you're going to need is a saucer. I got this from the thrift store, and you're also going to need a teacup. Then you're going to need a fork, and I know this one looks a little bit weird, but I will explain in a moment. So the way to do your floating teacup lies in this. This is the secret, the fork. So I will just show you what I've done here. I've separated these two, so I did that with some pliers. And then you're going to just place that in the middle. Let me just get the cup the right way around. You want to make sure it's in the center. And then you can see that there is a dent here. Again, I just did that with my pliers. You just want to bend it so that you can stick it down to your saucer. If your fork is really hard to bend, use 2 pliers. That's what we did here. So I used one on this end and then one on that end, and then I managed to shape it that way. You're going to start by gluing your fork to your cup. So I'm taking my hot glue here and I'm adding it to the 2 on the end of the fork, and then slide that through and hold it in place. And then you're going to turn it over, and just to secure it, we're going to place some hot glue on these sides as well, and make sure you're really careful because of course you're dealing with hot glue and metal, so the metal will warm up. So you can see I've applied lots of hot glue there just to make sure it's nice and secure, and you can use E6000, it will be more stable, but hot glue does work just fine. Then you're going to turn that over and you're going to apply hot glue here as well. Again, you can use E6000 or super glue if you like. And that should be enough. Then once all of your hot glue has dried, you want to take the bottom part and you're going to do the same thing, just apply some hot glue on the saucer to stick the fork and the saucer together. And then once that's dry, we're going to apply some on the top as well. Now if you have a problem with your cup tipping over, you're just going to need to bend your fork enough so that you get the center of gravity and it's stable, and that way it won't tip over. The main structure is done, we can start working on the waterfall. To make your waterfall, you're going to need a plastic bottle and some scissors, and what you're going to do is cut a strip of plastic so that it measures from the top of your cup all the way down to the bottom of your saucer. So here's my piece of plastic. Now all we're going to do is stick this with hot glue on the top and on the bottom. Quickly going to run you through, I applied some hot glue on the back of this plastic so that it can stick onto the cup, and then I just went in with some more hot glue on the top here to secure it in place. But what's going to happen is, because you're using hot glue with plastic, it's going to start shaping it. So you can see it's given it a curve, which is exactly what we want because we're creating a waterfall. Now we're going to start working on the bottom part, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Apply some hot glue underneath the plastic and then some hot glue on top so that it reinforces the structure as well as naturally shapes it. So we're just connecting the two together really with this hot glue. Okay, so now we have the top and the bottom reinforced, we can actually start working on the waterfall. So that means from here all the way down, and all I'm going to do is apply some hot glue. So you want to cover all of the plastic. I'll just turn this on the side so that it's easier for you to see. So all you want to do is take your hot glue and apply it to the plastic. Just in strokes like this, because that's going to make it look more realistic, like it's actually water that's flowing. I have a secret tip of mine to share with you regarding using hot glue to create water effects. Now if you want to make your water look like it's flowing, just like here, and you want to have some strokes going on, then make sure that you haven't plugged in your hot glue gun for a very long time. That way the hot glue isn't going to be melted and you have more control over it, and you can use strokes like this. But if you want your water to look like it's still and it's not flowing, I'll show you how that looks when I do it here on the saucer. Then make sure that your hot glue gun has been plugged in for a long time. That way your glue is going to have been melted. So you're going to see now, let me just bring it in closer. So you can see here, this is the type of water we want on the rest of the saucer. We don't want it to look like it's flowing. Whereas you can see the difference here on the waterfall. That looks very different to the type of water here. That's because this has been melted and the glue gun has been on for a long time. Whereas the glue here hasn't been melted that much compared to this one here, because it hasn't been plugged in for a long time. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see now this has been plugged in for a long time, and we can just squirt it all out and it's going to look really smooth. So you can see the consistency is really runny now, and that's what we want. So I'm just going to let this one melt a little bit more because that's just been put in, so that I can create a smooth effect. So I'm going to keep doing that, covering the saucer with hot glue, and then I'll come back. Next you're going to start painting your waterfall, and you can see I've started doing that. You can do this with some acrylic or some of these kind of paints. Ink or glass and tile paints also work. Okay, so this is everything all painted. Now we want to start adding in dimension and making it look flowing and more realistic. We're going to go in with some white acrylic paint. Now you want to just sort of like dry brush this, and you don't want to do too much. So you're going to think about where the water would naturally flow and froth. So that's where we're going to place the white acrylic paint. So I've got some there just on my paintbrush. So we're going to add some to the bottom here, because that's where it would naturally froth. So here at the bottom I'm just sort of dabbing it. Now we don't want it to look like paint, so that's too much there. You can see here it looks way more natural, so don't apply too much, just do this dabbing motion and you can spread it out. So where it's too much here, I'm going to use that paint and just spread it out. And then we're going to add some here, because that's where a lot of the natural movement will start. So a lot of the water here will be white. Now to add more depth to this, you're going to take some toy stuffing. I know this sounds a little bit weird, but it works. You're going to take a small amount, just like this, and all you're going to do is pull it apart so that they're not too close together and it looks like foam. So what we're going to do is just stick that on the bottom there, and that gives it an extra dimension and it makes it look way more realistic. So I've got my glue gun. I'm going to add just a little amount of glue just dotted around. And then take your toy stuffing and add that just to the bottom there. And then you want to make sure to get the sides here as well. So again, I'm just pulling this apart so it doesn't look like toy stuffing. And then I'm going to add a bit of glue there. And just stick that down. And then if you want, you can also go over it, just tap it with your paintbrush that has some white acrylic paint. Now everything's dry, I'm going to start decorating the cup and the saucer. So I'm starting off with this little bit of greenery. I'm going to wrap it around and then I'm going to stick it in place. So I want it to sort of look very natural, something like this. And now I'm going to start sticking some stones along the side of the saucer with some hot glue. So I carried on gluing these stones all across. I've left this part open because I didn't want any stones there, and I've made sure that I have a little gap to place my fairy. So she just sits right here on the side. Next you're going to add some greenery. To do that, take some artificial plants and just cut little bits off. So I've got a few here, so they come in like pots like this, for example. Or you can get them like this, and then you can cut them into however many pieces and however long you want. So just snip this little bit here, because it's a bit fat and gets in the way. And then hot glue it down wherever you like. So I'm going to place one here. And then hold it in place until it glues. And then I'm going to play with some length. So I'm going to cut this one just about here, maybe more than a half, and then I'm going to stick that one here. I'm going to stick this tiny one in the grooves of the stone just on the side of the saucer here, and then I've cut a smaller piece and I'm going to stick that one next to the fairy. Then I'm going to take this little swan and place him on the water just there, and then I'm going to take this little bird and stick it here as well. I'm going to add a touch of colour with some of these paper flowers. And here it is, guys, the completed fairy DIY. The first thing I'm using is this basket that I got from the thrift store, and we're going to give it a new life, something it's probably never ever been used for before. And to do that, I am using my terrarium. This is a moss terrarium. You can see it's doing really well actually. Now you can pretty much get moss anywhere. I got this from the park, so you can do that or have a look around your garden. Begin by lining your basket. Now we're going to hang it this way, so you want everything right on the side here. So here it is. I've just placed all of my moss on the base of this basket. Now I haven't chosen to spray paint this because I want to keep it as natural looking as possible. Now I'm just making a little bit of space because we're going to be taking this nest and placing it just sideways to make it look interesting. And I am letting a little bit of this moss pop up just on the side here. And then we're going to place a little bit of moss inside the nest as well. I love how these are just popping out, really cute. And then I'm taking these speckled eggs and placing them inside. And then I have taken 3 artificial flowers in a nice purple colour. And I'm going to just place it in the moss inside here. So I haven't used any glue for any of this. I'm going to just place it in there. And then you're going to place one on the side and one up here. Then I'm going to make use of this little bit of greenery. I've added blue tack just so I can stick it down temporarily, but you can of course use hot glue or anything you like. And I'm just going to slip it in right at the bottom here, but we want it poking out onto the side of the wicker basket, so I'm just going to cover this little bit up with moss. We want to make it look a bit more natural. Going to be making use of this bird that I got from Hobbycraft. I'm just going to remove this part here with some pliers. And then again, you're just going to secure it with your glue. I'm just using my blue tack again, and then I'm just attaching that just to the side of the basket. And to me, it's all about the little details. So, for example, you can stick him like this, but I feel like that looks a bit too static for me. So if you just stick him at an angle, it looks like he is flying and he's just going to land in the nest. So that makes it more interesting. So I'm just going to stick him down on there. And here's the final project. This was so quick and easy, but it just goes to show you don't need much, you don't need expensive things to put something together that comes out really nicely. First thing you're going to need is a candle holder. I did get this from the thrift store, but it originally came from IKEA. So that's that. I also did pick this up from the thrift store. I really love this. I got this last year and I knew I was going to use it. So I'm going to be covering this wooden bit here because I don't like that. So first up, my cocoa liner is going to come to the rescue. I've just cut a little piece off. So I'm just going to kind of mold this to the base and I'm going to hot glue it down and then cut off all of the excess. So I'm just going to keep doing that until the whole of the base is covered as much as possible. And look at how good it looks now. We're not even done with it yet. Well, that's definitely an improvement, I think, to how it was before. And it certainly looks more rustic and realistic. Next, I'm just going to add a little bit of detail with these feathers. I'm just going to cut it because the bird is quite small. I'm just going to attach a little bit with some hot glue. Okay, now I'm going to break up a little bit of that brown and we're going to add some contrast with this white curly moss. Again, I'm just going to hot glue it in place. So now I'm done with this, we just need to stick it down onto our candle holder. I'm going to be using blue tack to do this, but that's just because I want to do it temporary. So if you want to attach it and make sure it's secure, you can of course use E6000, hot glue, or just super glue. So that's that, and now I'm just going to take it, make sure that it's center on my candle holder, and then just firmly press that down. Right, so we're done with our first DIY, we're moving on to the second, and I have this beautiful frame that I got from the thrift store. I'm going to turn it over and we're just going to open this up. So I'm just going to flip the paper over so we're using the white side, and I'm going to just pop it back in. Then we're going to take this small nest. Again, I'm going to attach it with some blue tack just so that I can remove it later, but you can attach it with some hot glue again. And then you're going to stick it to the center of your frame. Then you're going to take some eggs. So I have this pack of speckled eggs here. They come in white, blue and pink. And I think I'm going to use all 3 colors actually. So I'm going to take my hot glue. Really simple, quick, easy DIYs. We're just going to stick that down onto your nest and then do the same for all the other eggs. And as simple as that, the second DIY is now done, so let's move on to the third and final one. I picked this up at the thrift store. It is a photo frame, but I really do love the birds on there. And I have gone onto Google and I just typed up vintage music sheet. So I came up with this. So I just printed that on card. I also used a word generator on Google for some vintage font and I typed up nest. So I just made sure that I got it to the right size. Hopefully it is. I did have to print it out twice. So I'm just going to cut these. We're going to start with this. So I'm just placing this down so that I can outline it with a pencil. So I get the correct measurement and then I'm going to cut it out and fit it inside. So I fitted that inside and I hot glued it down. And now I am cutting out my nest. I'm going to cut it in blocks per letter. I'm going to add some detailing to my letters with some brown ink, just to give it that aged look. You can also do this with some coffee or a tea bag. Again, I have printed these on card. It does make it easier because it's not as flimsy to work with if it was paper. So I'm just doing all of the letters, putting it down onto my ink pad and then just tapping the behind. Now you can use a glue stick for this or any type of glue that you like, but I'm going to again just use some blue tack, and this is actually easier for what I'm about to do right now because I can just maneuver it easier, so it's not actually just permanently stuck down. And I think to make it look a bit more interesting, I'm not going to stick it down in one line. I think I'm going to just place the E a little bit down here. So I'm going to carry that on, so the S will go up and then the T will come down. And if you want the nest lettering, the exact one I've used, I will provide a link for that so you can download it or print it directly. So that will be in the description box if you want it. And this is the final DIY completed, so let's have a look how they all come together. And here's all 3 DIYs completed. I think they look so nice together. The main thing you're going to need for this DIY are these fences. You can pick these up from the Dollar Tree or Poundland if you're in the UK. You're going to need a total of 3 fences. You're also going to need something to help cut the plastic. You can do this with some machinery. You can use a craft knife. Just make sure that you heat it up. You can do this with a hairdryer, for example. I'm using this pen here from my wood burning kit, so it had extra heads and I just changed the head to this blade. Make sure that you stay safe and you wear a mask and some gloves, or just be very careful with the blade. I set my pen to the highest temperature and then I began cutting away at the fences, so start off by cutting these little extra bits at the bottom. Once you've done that, you need to create grooves in the middle of each fence. This is going to help it bend. So I just took my pen and I made grooves in the bottom and the top of the fence. Take one fence which will act as your roof, then you want to take off the small bits on the side, only on this occasion though, so for the rest of the fences you want to keep them on because we do need them. Once you've completely removed all 4 parts on the side of this fence, you are now done and we no longer need to remove any more excess material. So moving on to the next stage, you're just going to construct your fence now into a box. To do this, you're going to use the side parts of the fence so that they slot into each other. Holding the roof together was proving a little tricky, so I decided to use some cable ties just to hold it together temporarily so that I can work with it easier. So I'm using 2 cable ties on the roof, one on either side, and then I am attaching the roof onto the rest of the fences using some more cable ties. Once I had all my cable ties in place and my foundation was stable, I then went in with some E6000 glue and I started sticking everything together, and once I applied all of the glue, I tightened all of the cable ties so that the glue can bond easier. Honestly, I try to use hot glue whenever I can because I don't really like using E6000. It kind of scares me when it says that there is a chemical in there that is known to cause cancer. So yeah, I do try to stay away from it, but hot glue just wasn't cutting it out for this project. I also added in more cable ties where I saw I needed. Now we're going to put our structure aside and let that to dry, and we're going to start working on the base. I just wanted to show you there is an option if you want to do something quick and easy, maybe something glam and something that you can keep out throughout the whole year. You can take a mirror or even a cake board that I got from Poundland, which fits, by the way, to the exact size, and then you can place your plant or your plants inside and then you're done. I wouldn't suggest sticking the board onto the foundation or our fences, because that way you can change the plants, you can just access it easier if you want to water it and so on. But as terrariums became popular around the Victorian era, I felt like something modern just didn't fit inside for me personally. I also wanted something bright and colourful, especially because it is nearing spring and summer will then be on its way. So to start creating my little Garden of Eden, I'm taking this grass mat roll runner. It was from Poundland. I'm just cutting its size and then I'm hot gluing it down. Then you want to grab a bunch of artificial flowers, cut them at different lengths and have a nice array of beautiful colours. Then hot glue them in place on your grass mat, and make sure you leave some space if you like to include some fairies, some angels, whatever you like. Once you're done with your decorating, you can then take your structure and gently place it on top of your base. Now the next steps are optional, you can leave it plain, but I just wanted to decorate a little bit more on the outside. To make it look more whimsical, like a secret garden, I took some of this greenery so that it kind of looks like ivy, and I just wrapped it around the outside of the fence. I did this on a few areas, so on the bottom of the fences and the top, and then I also did it on the other side. I used some of these butterflies from this decorative stickers pack, and I applied one on the outside of the fence. I also like to prop up their wings just to make it look more realistic. On one of them I didn't fancy the diamond embellishment, so I just removed it, and if it takes some of the paper off with it, you can just go over it with a Sharpie pen. I then hot glued that one and I placed it inside on a flower. I then took two of these wooden bee embellishments and I added one on the outside of the terrarium and the top. And finally it's time to remove those cable ties, so I just took some scissors and snipped away at them. And now the terrarium is all stuck together nice and stable. And this is the final project. Honestly, this project came out way better than I imagined, so I am so proud of it and it makes me happy. It's just so magical. I hope it brings joy to you as well. You're going to need a teacup. I bought this from the thrift store and I just fell in love with it because it looked vintage with the blue colour and the spots. This is going to be a hanging teacup, so we're going to cover the inside and the sides. You're going to start by covering the base of the teacup, and to do this you're going to use a miniature nest. I got this from Poundland, you can also buy them from Hobbycraft. I then took some brown moss and I hot glued it inside the nest and on the sides. The great thing about this is that it's so inexpensive because we're going to be using a lot of natural elements, so you can just improvise, but I am using this little piece here from a potpourri pack, and then I used some twigs on the front of the cup. To add some colour I did use this flower. I didn't want to use too much artificial things, but I felt like this went with everything well, so I just hot glued that on top of the twig. I added some more colour by taking some of this green curly moss and hot gluing that. I then added in some dried flowers. The baby's breath is always lovely to use because it's so dainty, but it just adds a little bit of contrast and detail. I added the brown dried flowers on the side of the cup. I tried to make the landscaping interesting by adding in a variation of colours, textures, even lengths. And for the last bit of colour and contrast, I am taking this pink paper flower and I'm just hot gluing that inside. Now I did have some eggs on me already, but they weren't the colour that I wanted, so I decided to make my own using some air drying clay. This is of course optional, but if you don't have the size that you want or the colour, then you can make your own. To do that, you're going to take a small ball of clay and roll it in your hand until it's a circle, smooth out any cracks with water, and then just gently sculpt the top of the egg so that it's oval and looks more realistic. I'm then using some black paint and my dotting tool just to create some black specks on the egg. You can just use a pin to do this. While you wait for your eggs to dry, take an old doily or handkerchief. Here I'm just cutting the edge off one. So you want the lace bit ideally, and then I am staining it because I didn't want the white colour, I wanted it to be like a vintage sort of colour. So I took some tea bag to do this and my sponge brush. You can also use coffee. I created this vintage spring banner. I'll leave the link for that in the description box. It's free for you to download if you like. I made sure that it fits the inside of my cup and that I print on card. I then went ahead and cut it, and I also stained that with some tea. I then took my banner and my piece of lace and I put it on top of a radiator to dry. After everything was dry, which by the way didn't take long at all, I took my piece of lace and I decided where I want to place it, and then when I was happy I just hot glued that. I then did the same with my spring card banner. I just had to look at where I want it, and then when I was happy I hot glued that and secured it in place. I then took my 3 clay eggs and arranged them and then placed them inside the nest. So I was going to stop there, but I'm all about the details, so I didn't like the little bit of white that was showing on the bottom of the cup. So then I just took some moss, a different colour to all the other ones that I used inside the cup, and then I hot glued it. So I did that across the whole side of the cup, so the whole bottom half is now covered. I then thought that was too plain, so I took this miniature pine cone and I just hot glued that in the center and added a small yellow feather inside the nest beneath the eggs. I wanted to add a little color to the bottom of the cup where the moss was, so I took this old miniature tree and I just cut some off with a plier and I stuck them in with some hot glue on either side of the miniature pine cone. Finally, take a ribbon. You can just do this for decoration or to hang the cup. I chose a nice pink colour to go with the flowers that I used, and then you're going to tie it onto the handle of the cup and let the rest dangle. But if you're choosing to hang your cup, then take the rest of the ribbon and attach it to the hook that you're using. And this is what the final project looks like. I'm starting off with this bird cage that I got as a gift from my sister. It had some shower items in there, but if you don't have anything like this, don't worry. I think that you can use a mason jar and that will work just fine. For the base, you're going to need a cocoa liner. So here I am just taking my bird cage, placing it on top so that I can measure around it and cut that out. Then I am placing my cocoa liner in the base of my bird cage, and then you're going to take a twig and 2 birds. So I've got these doves. These poor birds. You can see the cats have got to them, haven't they? And then I am using my hot glue just to stick them onto the twig and make sure that they're perched next to each other. I then took the twig with the bird stuck on and I put it inside my bird cage. Now I didn't stick this down because I simply was able to rest it in between the bars. Now we are going to be making our bunting. I'm taking this material that I bought from Poundland. It's a fat quarter. I then cut out a small triangle from the material and I used that as a template to cut out the rest so that they're all as similar size as possible. I then took my stamps and I stamped in love. Now I am making this as a 2-in-1 DIY, so it is for Valentine's, but you can also use this for spring. So to do this, you can just stamp in spring just at the reverse or the back of the triangle bunting, so that one side reads love and the other side will read spring. So you want to make sure that you have 6 triangles if you're going to do this, because spring is 6 letters. But because love only reads 4 letters, you will have a plain triangle piece of bunting at the beginning and end. This really makes a nice handmade gift, as well as Valentine's or spring decor, but you can also use this as a wedding centerpiece. Once you've finished stamping in all of your letters, you're going to take a piece of twine and measure this to make sure it's the right length for your mason jar or your bird cage, and then you're going to take some hot glue and then just stick them down to your twine. Make sure to leave a little gap in between each triangle that you stick down. It just makes it look a lot better. I felt like this project looked good in the farmhouse style, so I went along with that, but I felt like it just needed a touch of colour, so I took these small cute bows and I hot glued them onto each triangle bunting. I then threaded my bunting through the bars and I placed it where I wanted and just secured that down with some hot glue. For some final touches, I took this heart wicker and I just hot glued that to the top of the bird cage. And then finally I took some eggs. I tried to make sure that they are in scale. I had some big ones and they just looked awful. I also tried to match the colours of the eggs with the colours of the bows on the bunting. And here it is, the final DIY. Isn't this just so adorable and sweet? I think that I have a thing of making everything just cute. So we're taking this solar light bulb from Poundland, and the first thing we're going to do is just measure the center of the box that you're using, because we're going to install it inside here. Mine measures 13.5, then you want to divide that by 2, so that's 6.75 centimeters. So I've just marked here where I want to drill the hole. So to drill out the exact circumference that I need, I am using a 32mm flat wood bit. So we have drilled the hole for this, and I have fitted in the bulb, and it's really nice and secure. If you can manage to find yourself a box similar to mine in shape, then when you screw on the light bulb cap, it also looks like a lantern, so I really love that. And you can hang it up from here. I'm going to be taking some moss to cover this part here, and I'm just going to hot glue that. I'm going to be taking some snippets of this craft vine that I brought from the works, and I'm going to hot glue some down the sides from here. I'm taking some more snippets of this vine, but I'm making them smaller as I go each time. So this one's a little smaller in length from the first one here, and then I'm taking my glue gun, sticking that down. Now I'm taking some purple dried flowers, and then I'm also sticking that down. I'm really loving the detailing here. I like that it really looks like just a natural garden, and so what I've done is just make it bigger and then go down in size. So I'm going to leave this side here empty, and then this side here I'm going to keep pretty simple because it's not really going to be shown, and I kind of want this side here to be the feature. And then of course we still have inside to build when we push this lid up. So I'm going to be taking these stamps that I brought off eBay. There's a bee design, and then I also have a butterfly, and I'm just going to stamp that on this side here. When I'm stamping, I make sure to remove the edges with tissue because I don't want the excess ink coming up around it, and if any does come up, then I just take a sandpaper and gently sand it away. I felt like there was a little something missing from here, so I've taken a cutout of a butterfly and I've folded it just to make it look more 3D, and I think I'm going to just pop him here with some hot glue. And for all my subscribers, you know I've done this before. I love taking these beautiful white dried flowers, and to add some contrast and make it look brighter, I love just poking it through the green moss like that. And they're really perfect because they're dainty and it just adds that finished touch. It's really simple, but it just gives it that final thing that you might be looking for. So I'm really happy with the outside now. I'm going to start designing the door. So for the door, I am taking this door that I brought from Poundland, and it's really actually quite heavy. So for this, I'm going to be using a mixture of E6000 and my trusty hot glue. Then I'm taking this beautiful fairy wood embellishment that I brought from the works, and I'm going to apply some hot glue and stick her down on the door. And I am taking these miniature keys. I bought them in a pack from the works. I'm going to take some hot glue and just stick that down. I'm going to be taking some green curly moss and adding that to the frame of the door, just to make it look a little natural and break up the colour. I've just slid it through and look at how gorgeous that looks now. Really loving how it's coming along, and I'm just so excited. So again, I'm taking some snippets of the dried flower and adding that to the door. This is how it looks now on the outside. I mean, just look at how magical this is. So excited. And we've still got the inside to build. I mean, like, seriously, can it get more magical than this? And I really love that it's like mixed media. I really love creating different textures. It's just so aesthetically pleasing, I think. So let's get on and start decorating and building the inside. So that's it, everyone. That's today's fairy adventure, and this is today's fairy creation. I'm just going to create a backing for the hat to make it firm. So the rim of the hat measures just over 6.5 centimeters. So just measure that onto your cardboard and make a mark, and then you could do that a few times throughout. I've drawn along the dots and I've marked it up, and now I'm going to cut it out. So the cardboard is all cut, and I've just fitted that into the hat so that when we hang it up it's all firm and it's not flimsy. So now I'm going to just stick this down with some hot glue. So now I have my cardboard stuck down, and we're not going to worry about this because this is going to be covered when it's against the wall. Now I'm taking this item here and I'm going to stick it down to the hat with some hot glue. So it's all stuck down now, it's really secure, and I've chosen to have it at an angle, and you'll see why when we finish building this hat. The next thing we're going to do is grab some moss, and we're going to align the hat with some of this. So this is how I've stuck down my moss with some hot glue. I've let some dangle down, and I've also stuck it down with some hot glue because I really like this effect. Next you're going to take your succulents, and you can just place them inside, or you can choose to hot glue them. I've also gone with some red berries and some white artificial flower here just to add some little detailing and contrast. I'm also going to decorate some of the hat. I've taken this butterfly and I printed it and cut it out, and then I'm just going to add some hot glue, just a tiny drop, and stick that over here. I'm taking these small bees here. I'm just going to add one up there. I'm also going to add one more. So now we're going to be focusing on the water feature, and I'm going to take this clear string and I'm going to cut these in however many holes there are, 6 holes. So I'm going to need 6 strings. So I've cut 6 of them, and now I'm going to hot glue them into the holes here. Okay, so I have finished the water, and so all I did was add a little bit more moss to the bottom here, and I also increased the plants inside, just a few sprigs of artificial plants there at the back. So now that we have finished the main structure, we're going to just stick down something at the back for backing. So you need to grab your glue gun and grab a piece of wood, anything you have that's lying around that can help support the backing of the hat. So I'm going to find the center. I'm also going to use a few drops of E6000 glue. And then just stick that down. So I've just got this backing on the wall, and I'm going to just hang the hat on there with some string. And here we have it, the final DIY. The first thing I'm going to do is give this a wipe and a clean. Next, you want to get your bag of gravel, take a handful and put some in the base up to around here, and then give it a rinse. So here is my gravel, nice and washed. Next you're going to take your soil, and we're going to pour a layer of that inside here. Next you're going to grab a plant, and I'm using a fern for this. So now I've put all of the soil in, I'm just going to cover the soil with some moss. Once you've covered everything with moss, this is how it's going to look. Now we're going to start decorating with our fairy accessories. And I've got these from Poundland. I'm taking this succulent here to add in the middle, just there. I'm also taking some dried flowers and dried plants, and I'm going to add that just for decoration and colour. So here is the finished fairy garden. You're going to start off with some scissors and your rattan ball, and we're going to cut an entry. So just cut away at the rattan. So you need to create an entrance that is going to fit in some moss and fairies and things like that. So this is the size that I'm happy with, and I'm going to do the same with the other ball. You will find that when you have cut some of the rattan, that some of it is just going to poke out like that. So all you want to do is poke it in to some other places so it's all secure. So this is how mine look now. I'm going to start building the house inside now, and I'm taking this green moss from Wilko. You can also get it from Poundland. Once you're happy with how much moss you have inside, go ahead, grab your fairy and pop her into her new home. I'm going to take a snippet of some artificial flowers and trim it to size, and then just pop it in about there. I want to keep the look quite fresh, quite natural and quite simple, and I want the world to be inside, so that's why I'm not decorating the outside, but that's completely down to you how much you do. I'm just replicating the exact same process. I've just chosen a lighter moss here and just putting some into the base again. It's completely up to you if you just want to create one, if you want to create 3. I'm just making 2. Now some quick ideas on how to display them. You can completely leave them just like this. I think that is perfect, and I do like that it's simple, and that's what I love. But you can also add some string and then hang them down from a twig. I think that would be really nice. Or you can grab some of these plant pot saucers and you can spray paint it, decorate it how you like, add some moss and then have them like that. And the third idea that I've got is using something like a bark. You can get these from the park, or you can get a wooden lug, and then you can just add some moss and then just glue them. Well, that's it everyone, as simple as that. This DIY is now complete. It could not be any more easier. Okay, so you've got your frame, and then I'm taking this bag of stones, and this was also from Poundland, and I know you can all find it in the Dollar Tree stores as well, and I'm going to pour some in. The best part is I know this is going to look quite expensive, and don't you just love that when you make a craft and it's really simple, really quick and easy and inexpensive, and then it just looks like a really nice home decor piece that's worth a lot more. You want to put some stones around your gravy boat and make sure that the design is hidden and there's nothing to worry about. I think that bag was just perfect. Ignore my messy hand. I was just testing some pens out. Completely forgot that that was on my hand. Alright, so once you have your gravy boat in place, you want to just take it out because we're going to be writing in the Raydon sort of inspired font on here. I'm going to start off by writing it in pencil, just, you know, if there's any mistakes I can rub it out. So I've just gone ahead and practiced. What do you guys think? Hopefully it looks a lot better than that on the actual thing. I've just sketched it out and I'm not happy. I feel like I need to move it a little bit more to the left because it's just, I don't know, there's too much space on the left. So here we go again, take 2. This was like my 3rd attempt and I've finally done it. Then I've taken 2 of my pens. This is an acrylic painter and I bought these from China. They're actually calligraphy pens and I got 3 in a set. I was debating which one to use. I think the acrylic painter is a little bit too thick because Raydon text tends to be really thin, and that's a characteristic of that type of font. So I'm going to go with this one, and I've tested it and it is permanent. So you just want to write over your pencil design, and I really need to do this up close, so I'm going to have to do it off camera. I'm going to let this dry before I just tidy up inside. So let's work on the rest. So you're going to bring back your tray and place it inside. Next I'm taking some salt because it's way cheaper than white sand. Fill the inside of your gravy bowl with salt. Once you've filled your gravy bowl with salt, you want to take your artificial succulents. Again, these are selling in Poundland and they're also selling in the dollar stores. Then you want to start arranging them inside. I'm taking 2 smaller ones because I want to put some on the side here. Lastly, I'm using my favourite artificial plant and I'm curving this part so that I can slot it inside. Here we have it. I really love how this came out. I think it's really minimal and clean and just simple and really looks expensive. So I'm starting off with this box that I bought from the works. It's a wooden box that I have previously used in a project before, so it has been spray painted gold. First things first, I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue to the bottom here because I don't want it opening for this project. Next, I'm taking the dictionary and I'm going to look up butterfly. Then I'm going to just place it aside for now. Then I'm going to take a page out from the B section. Then I'm going to take my Mod Podge and apply a thin layer here and then stick our dictionary page inside. I've just ripped out another page from the B section in the dictionary to cover the sides here and here. And while the Mod Podge is still wet, I'm going to take some fine white glitter and sprinkle a little bit on, just to make it look really magical. This is just something I love doing. If you are one of my subscribers and you watch my videos frequently, you will know that this is something I just love doing. Once you've finished your decoupage, we're going to take a little bit of foam brick and add it to the bottom, inside here. I've cut my foam brick down to quite a small size, so I kept measuring and just cutting a little bit more off until I was satisfied. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue here and then stick it down in the centre. Now we're going to start building up the inside, and I'm taking some twigs from the garden, and this is going to be your main structure really. Alright, so Once you've finished poking in your little twigs into the foam block, you will have something that looks like this. I'm going to try and cover the whole foam brick and just place it in between the twigs. You can have some coming out. I think that that's quite a nice look. Makes it look a little bit more wild and natural. Now we've finished the main structure, we're going to start decorating, which is the really exciting part. And I'm taking these butterfly papers that I brought from the works, and you can just print these off the internet, any butterfly designs and sizes. I'm going to start with some of the smallest ones. Do you remember the little strip of butterfly that we cut out from the dictionary? This is where I'm going to place it with some hot glue. Add some life, I'm taking some baby's breath and poking that inside the moss. Then I'm going to take some flower heads off here, and this I brought from the wedding section in Hobbycraft. To add a tiny amount of colour, I've just gone ahead and put some berries in the corner there, and then I'm going to stick 2 up here. I've also taken some green curly moss and added some to the bed of the forest and up here alongside the twigs. After you've put in your berries and your green curly moss, it should look something like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is line the bottom with some green moss. The next thing that I'm doing is taking a piece of the artificial flowers, and I'm going to stick that down with some hot glue. I'm going to take a few of these off, I think about 3 or 2. I'm going to have to size it up and see. So I'm going to cut around from here and then just hot glue that down to there. Then I'm taking this miniature toadstool. It has a wire attached, so I don't need to hot glue it down, and I can just poke it into the cork. Then I'm taking my fairy and going to place her right there. I'm going to take these 3D butterflies, and I actually received this as a gift, so I have no idea where these are from, but they are self-adhesive stickers. And what we're going to do is probably take this one here, because it's the smallest, and just hot glue it to some wire. So this is how the butterfly looks. It's got 2 layers to it. One is sort of like a translucent paper, and the other side is a plastic sticker. Take your wire. I like using green wire because it tends to go with all of the fairy gardens and projects that I do. So I got this from the garden section, and then you want to take your pliers and cut it to size. Then attach your sticky butterfly. If you can't get any stickers, just print these off, the internet on some card. I think that will do fine. And again, because this is wire, you should be able to just pop it into the cork without hot gluing it. Now that's all ready. Just slide your top over everything. And here is the final finished project. I think it looks really magical. The first thing that you want to do is fill your teacup with some soil, and this is the brand that I'm using and the soil type that I'm using. This is the moss type that I'm using, and you can use the green moss or any other colour, but I prefer this because it's neutral. Next, I'm taking this small wood log and placing it here. I just really love the natural look, and I want it to look like it's something out of the woods where you can find some magical fairies. Then I brought this small water feature, and I think I'll add that here. I will leave the links to everything that I use in the description box, and they're really super cheap. I buy all of my things from China, so it's not going to cost you much at all. Then I'm taking this small fence and placing it here. I've got my fairy, and I'm going to place her just on top of the wooden log. Taking a small artificial tree, and I got like 10 in a pack for about £2 something, so again really cheap. The next thing you want to do is take some white fine glitter, and that's so that we can sprinkle a little bit on and make it all that more magical. Okay, so you can either leave off here and keep it as a spring decor piece, or if you want to make this a mother's gift, you can also gift it just the way that it is. But I have one more step that I'd like to add, just to sort of personalise it. So if you want to do that, then carry on watching, it's so quick. So I've got a heart wooden embellishment, and I'm taking my acrylic painter in a really pale pink to match the flowers, and I'm going to paint that. Next, I'm taking these alphabet stickers from Hobbycraft. Then I'm taking this leaf with a wire attached, and I'm going to hot glue the embellishment onto about here. And here is the final project. The first thing that you want to do is line your box or your crate with something that is protective so that the box doesn't mold or rot from water. I'm taking this plastic roll, which is generally used for drawers and things like that. Once you've cut your protective lining, it should look something like this. Next, we're taking some soil to fill the crate, and this is the soil that I'm using. This is how much soil I've put in so far. Next, we're going to start arranging our beautiful flowers. I've got the two plants in, and I've added just a little bit more soil to cover them up. Next, I'm taking some moss, and this is typically used for reptiles. I'm choosing this type because all the others are quite green and colourful, and I just don't want anything to take away from the colours of the flowers and all of the other detailing I'm going to put in. So this is just something subtle that covers the soil. now for the really exciting part, which is to decorate with your fairy items. And for those of you who are in the UK and wondering where I bought my items from, I bought the flowers from Aldi and the crepe from Aldi, this from the works, and many of the other fairy items that I'm going to be using is also from the works. This item here I brought from Poundland. These fairies here are from the works as well. I brought this from the works too. And I'm taking some hot glue and just applying a little bit at the bottom of the door. I'm taking the final purple fairy and adding a little bit of hot glue to stick it to the side. Then I'm taking some toadstools and poking them through the moss. The final touch, I'm taking this beautiful butterfly set that I brought from the works. It comes with 3 wires and 3 sets of papers with lots of beautiful designs of butterflies in jars. You can of course just use any wire and print these or something similar off the internet. One last thing, just to make it that little bit more magical, I'm taking some fine white glitter and sprinkling it all on the edges. You can stick this down with some PVA if you like. So I'm just going to pop that there, and it sits nicely in the ridges, as you can see. Like, it's quite stable, it's not outside. So all of the sticky dots are inside and it just secures it in place. Now the next item I'm using is these egg nests from Poundland, and you get 6 in a pack. Now I'm going to pick out these eggs from these little nests. You have to be very careful when you're doing this because obviously it takes the nest with it, so just be as careful as you can. So I'm going ahead and I'm taking some moss. This is reindeer moss and it has little twigs in here, generally naturally like this. So it makes it a lot more realistic for a nest. I just like the neutral colours as opposed to, I mean the eggs were making it a little bit too bright for me, so that's why I decided to remove them. But if bright things are your taste, then you can just leave them in there. So I'm adding a little bit of twigs just to, you know, make it a little bit more natural. Now I'm taking an eggshell from the morning and just breaking it up really small so that it looks as if a little bird has just hatched. I'm taking these little cute chicks that I've got online from eBay, and it's actually from China, so you can find these on Wish. I will leave all of the details for all of the links in my website, which I will include in the description box and in the comment section. This is how they look. They're just so adorable. Now the alternatives that you do have are generally these kind of chicks that you find in Poundland, in the works and places like that. They're just a little bit too, I don't know, too poor quality. They could make these so much better. I used to find them so cute when I was a child, but now that I've grown up, I'm just like, they look a little bit angry, don't they? So this is how the little nest looks. I decided to use just 2 chicks because 2 was just cuter. I'm going to just decorate the outside of where I'm going to place the nests here, and I'm starting off with using some curly moss from Hobbycrafts. So I've got a piece here, and I'm just taking some natural dried flowers and I'm going to place some inside. I'm just kind of weaving it in really, just to add a little bit of, it's a little bit green, so just to break that up. I have made 2 nests and 2 nests can fit in, but I've decided just to use 1 because it's a little bit too crowded for me to use 2, and I do want to decorate the outside, so it's a little bit too cramped to decorate outside and place 2 nests in. It's quite naturalistic, which is what I want, because I want it to mimic something wild and just found in nature. Making the nest, and I kind of want to fit it in so it's standing upright. Now I'm adding a little bit more to the side here. It's kind of like building a nest within a nest. Just to finalise, I'm taking a branch and placing it inside the jar. To secure the branches or the twigs in, I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue and just stick it down. And I'm also adding in a little bit of greenery from some other things I picked up at the park, and again I'm just going to be gluing it down with some hot glue like that, and then we just gently place it over the nest. So this is the finished DIY craft project, using the candle holder from Poundland and a mirror and a glass vase, 2 little cute chicks in the nest that we made out of moss and little egg shells. To start off, you need a nice big teacup. Start filling your teacup with gravel to help the drainage of the plant. I'm going to start filling the cup with soil. I'm using indoor plant compost here. Now to start preparing the plant that you've chosen to work with. I've chosen this beautiful succulent. Succulents are very low maintenance and easy to care for. I'm choosing to repot my plant, so I'm going to start gently removing the soil to reveal the roots. Now that the roots are showing and I've taken off as much soil as I can, I'm going to start repotting it in the teacup. Now that the main work is done, it's time to start the fun part, decorating. I grabbed some things that I currently have, but I didn't use all of this. I used these pearls, and this potpourri, and this fairy, and this decor for plants and some glitter. And I also used some stones and lace. I used a glue gun to hold everything together, and moss as a foundation base layer. I like to make my piece look more natural by covering the saucer with some moss as a base layer before I start decorating. I'm going to start decorating by using another type of moss. I'm going to start sticking that down with glue gun. Don't worry, the glue doesn't kill the moss. To keep your moss alive and your plant, I suggest misting it every 3 days. Now I'm happy with the base layer, I'm going to start building up on that with some natural goodies I found in the park. I'm going to start gluing them down with glue gun in the places I think look best. Sometimes you have to experiment and move things around a little. Add shape and structure to your piece and make it look more interesting by gluing your objects in different positions so that not everything is lying flat. I'm going to carry on using natural things that I found in the park and just glue those down into place. I'm going to add a little bit of colour to the piece by sticking down this moss I found in the park. I'm going to use some potpourri next. They look great, smell great and add colour to the piece. I'm going to decorate the plant a little by covering up the soil with some lovely pebbles. I'm going to try and cover as much soil as possible by squeezing in as many pebbles as I can. I'm going to decorate the teacup itself just to make it look a little interesting because the cup was quite dark and plain. And I've chosen some elasticated lace to do this. Now I'm just going to take my miniature fairy Tinkerbell and add her to the handle of the cup. So this is how it looks now. I think I'm almost done. I'm going to add one last finishing touch by using this pearl chain. Try and arrange your beads as artistically as you can. Also try and make sure that your decorative pieces don't clash and that the colours are all sort of neutral and go with each other. So this is a finished piece. This part is just an additional option that you don't have to choose. I just love this part and I look forward to it the most. I just think it adds a nice finishing touch. I use this plant decor just to make the colours of the succulent pop more. Just to show you how it looks now. I think you'll agree that the plant decor does make a big difference. This is literally the last step, and again, this is just an optional choice that you can make, but I like to just finish the piece off by sprinkling some beautiful white glitter. It just helps the piece sort of glisten. And this is a finished piece. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Start by wetting your clay just so that you can mould it into shape. Once your clay is soft and easy to work with, start moulding it into relief shape. Now we're just going to keep repeating that and make our first layer. Try to make sure that all your petals are the same size. Once you've completed the petal, just stick it next to the previous one. Gently mould them together just to help them stick. So we're just going to repeat this process and finish the first layer. If you find that some petals are bigger than the others, just cut some off and mould it back into shape. So this is our first layer done. and we're going to start building the second layer. On the second layer, we're going to repeat the exact same process, however this time you just need to make the petals a little smaller. So now we have our second layer done, and we're going to again repeat the same process and just build our third layer. Make sure that the petals are becoming smaller and smaller. On this layer, you also want to start turning up your petals lightly. Now we've finished our third layer. With every layer you make, there should be less petals and it should be smaller in size. Keep repeating the process until your lotus has a full look. Again, you want to make sure that you're turning up and curving the edges of the petals. This is the finished look of the sculpted lotus. I'm just going to go ahead and add a little water to the clay just to smoothen the surface. You want to try and make sure that there's no cracks. Now you want to set this aside to dry. While that dries, we're going to start working on another part of the plant that carries the pollen. Roll a piece of clay and make sure that it's thicker at the bottom. This is how the lotus looks dry. Place the pollen part in the center at the top of the flower. Now take your wire and start poking holes in the top. Now cut very small pieces of wire. You can do this with scissors or pliers. You want to keep doing this until you've got quite a few pieces. Roll small clay balls and add them to the wire like this. Now push it gently into the midsection. Just keep repeating this process. This is how your lotus should be looking now. Now it's time to make the lily pad. Make sure that your lily pad is larger than your lotus. Start by making an oval shape. Fold in part of the edges to create a groove. Once it looks like a lily pad, start adding in the details. I'm just using my fingernails to do this. Now we're going to start painting, and we're going to begin with the pollen part. Paint it yellow. Grab your lily pad and paint that green. I'm choosing to make a pink lotus, so I've just gone ahead and painted it. Now we're going to add the details to the lotus. You want to start painting the edges in a darker shade to whatever colour you're working with. Now I'm going in and adding more details by painting the bottom of the petals white. I added lighter strokes of the white paint to the middle of the petals. And this is how it looks so far. So this is a finished lotus. It came out super pretty. This next part is optional. I'm just making a display for the lotus. I'm starting by squirting blue hair gel into a glass container. Once your flower is dry and you've put it into position, take some artificial plants and add that to the surroundings. And we're done. I really enjoyed making this piece. It's different to any of the other projects I've done so far. Begin by filling your jar with moss, then sprinkle some white glitter in the sides of the jar. Just keep repeating the process until your jar is full. Now you want to make space for your larger miniature house and place that in the centre of your moss. I'm just taking the smaller houses and placing them in the side of the jar with my tweezers. You want to make sure everything is pretty visible. Now I'm going to place the lights in between the moss and down the sides of the jar. Fill in any empty spaces with more moss. I've added glue to the bottom of the Tinkerbell figurine and just sticking that onto the lid. And now you're done. It's a quick and easy project that's super fun to make. If you've made it this far, well done. You've just watched a ton of ideas. I hope that you have enjoyed them. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.